My name is Jack, also Jamper. I'm 18 and I'm from Maryland in the United States. My ideology about Fortnite is you have to just play based on what's happening around you. You can try to think ahead as much as you can, which is good, and prepare, but you have to be ready. You have different teams landing on the map from different regions, so you've never played them before, you don't know their strategies, so it is harder to plan for it. You have to be ready for anything. I think I've always been a competitive person because I used to play soccer, like high-level soccer, a lot of my childhood. Like anything I do, I always have to win. Like, I can't end things on a loss. Even if it's just like playing like a game, like a ping pong game, like I can't end on a loss. My most proudest moment was when I got second twice in back-to-back grand finals, because that was my first time IGLing, and I wasn't sure who I was gonna play with at the start of the season. So I was really proud. I think the reason we got second was because of our play style from our drop. We were a very aggressive team. When we left our drop from Dirty, we didn't have a lot of early surge, which made us below surge a lot. Because everyone thinks they know like surge is very important. Everyone of course knows it, but then when you're sitting there in grand finals like below surge and dying and you're just sitting there waiting for the next game to start, it really hits you and it just sticks with you.
We got Paper and Jamper, another one of our hot teams that we're looking at.
Last year, I kind of switched teammates a lot. This year, I'm just sticking with the same teammate. We're staying at the same spot no matter what, so each season we should get better. Like last year, I would play with new teammates and switch spots, so there was a lot of more learning, but this year, I think our seasons can build on top of each other. Our recent performance was poor. We didn't make Major 1. We missed the qual in week 2 and 3, and we were doing good, and like we kind of got complacent and fell into like a groove. We stopped caring as much about our mistakes, and this time we're gonna make sure we fix everything. Me and my duo work really hard every day, so I think the results will just take care of themselves. I'm not really too worried. As long as we just have a good system in our practice and our routine, then it should make it. You really have to sit there and like detach your ego to improve, I feel like, because a lot of times when you make a mistake, you don't actually see the mistake until you look back at it later and like unbiasedly, or you ask someone else their opinion, because a lot of times you make decisions based off emotions and not like analytically what's the best choice to make. That's really how I got better, was just watching my own gameplay back, like recording myself play and watching it back and seeing my own flaws.
Both of them are solos, but Jamper makes the shot of a lifetime.
I feel like I have my mid-game part down to a T. Like I'm really confident in my drop and everything. We just need to be uncontested. But if it is contested, then the other team won't do good. They will not do good contesting me at all, I promise you. Because me and Paper have practiced our drop. We are practiced it so much, we are ready for anyone who lands there. It could literally be anyone. We have practiced it so much. I'm so confident in my drop. I am so confident in my drop.
Watch out for me and don't underestimate me.
We don't make mistakes, so you're gonna have to play perfect to beat us.
I feel like I don't have much to prove. There's no question in the air here.
I feel great going into Major 2, gonna get it done.
Our experience is through the roof. Been on every stage, been in every moment. 100% we have what it takes.
I've got everything planned out. I don't make mistakes.
I'm taking home the Axe of Champions.
NA East, I'm about to show you what a real NA West player can do.
Like, I feel like everyone knows I'm here. NA East or NA West, doesn't matter. I'm still on top.
Let's go, boys. Major 2's mine.
Let's go.
If you contest me, it's just gonna go bad for you.
Let's go, baby.
What's going on, Fortnite fam? Welcome back to the FNCS. Yesterday, we watched EU take the stage, but now we come back. No longer NA East and NA West, just NA. My gosh, there's so many things we have to talk about, from new duos forming to others splitting up to meta things, all the things we will talk about on today's broadcast. And I'm very happy you're joining us here today. If you missed out on the action yesterday, make sure you go back. Those EU games were wild. And now, hopefully, we'll see if NA East can step up to the plate and bring the same level of heat. Now, it's just not just me hanging out with you. We're going to have some very big minds in Fortnite breaking down all the action. So let me introduce Somebody's Gun and Vivid.
Guess who's back together on the stage?
It's us too.
There you go. That's crazy. We're back once again. We watched EU go absolutely wild yesterday, and now we're back to do it here in NA. What do you guys think? How you feeling?
Feeling really good. I'm excited to be back, see exactly how these games play out. And I mean, you already hyped it up. We have one region that is now North America and a couple of players that are ready to show they're ready.
Gotta step up to the plate, right? NA West, NA East coming together, one region, right? All that smack talk that happened between the two regions gonna be settled this major right here, right now that they go head to head. I'm excited to see how it all pans out.
Oh man, I don't even know that I'm ready for this level of intensity, but let's go. We got a show to do, so why don't we begin with talking about some of the duels we watch compete here today. Let's just throw up big names at you real fast. Booga, Threats, the first duel we do want to highlight here over on NA.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, we can't not talk about someone like Booga on a ridiculous list of accolades. Now, paired up with Threats, though.
Yeah, I mean, the talk of the town for Booga, last season, this season, no longer paired up with Mira after finding so much success with him for such a long time. He had to find a new duo. Last season, that was Peterbot. Everybody was looking at them as the best duo on the region. After that finals performance, that wasn't necessarily what they were looking for. So the search re-began this season, and he went through a couple of duos this season, right? Tried out a couple, including Miro himself. But ended up with Threats, and I'm excited to see what this duo can bring to this major.
Yeah, just about everybody, and now settling on Threats, and I don't think you go wrong with Threats. Threats is a pure aimer, always ready to play perfectly, and we're gonna see him and Booga play a little more aggressively. You were telling me that they got a different play style, and maybe you got something about that later on, but these guys, they're gonna be ready to play and show up today.
Okay, I like to see. Let's talk about another duo here. We actually had a chance to speak with them in major number 1. It's Trashy and it's Pump coming back to bring it in major number 2. What can we expect from this duo?
Listen, expect the rise, right? I feel like this duo is the up-and-coming duo. I mean, they've been around in the scene for such a long time, but pairing up together, they have really found their stride, finishing 8th last season in that finals, just recently as well. To talk a little bit about this season, won a duo Cash Cup. So I'm really looking forward to seeing this duo compete today. And one thing that I really like about how this duo plays, especially in the early game, is that they have this little strategy going on where they like to collect all these extra shields over by where they land and stack them up in a bush. So they have a plethora of shields every single early game, and it helps them so much with Storm Surge.
You're leaking the early game strats for them. But it might be because Pump, great solo player, now starting to see it come together in team modes, and I'm really interested to see that strategy because it's harder for those controller players to hit those surge tags. Could be the reason why they've created that strat.
Okay. We talk strategy. I like that here. Now, this is just the first 25. Let's flip on over and get a little peek at the next 25 duos we've seen compete today. We have to talk about, next up, it's Peterbot and Quanti. So we kind of touched a little bit on him and Booga pairing up, but now he's kind of shifted away and is paired up with Quanti. Is this like a dynamic duo, or how do we expect them to fare?
I think they'll play really well. I think Quanti has been one of the more underrated IGLs in North America East. Now we're throwing them together with West, but I don't think that really changes anything. He's been a solid player for a while now and consistently proving himself to be able to guide a team, guide a duo through these games and set themselves up. And man, I mean, Peterbot was talked about pretty much all last year. I think he's become a player that no longer needs an introduction.
Yeah, 100%. I think what does it for him is his mechanics. I think there's no question about whether or not he's like the best mechanical player on the NA region right now. I think pretty much everybody unanimously can agree upon that, but just all about finding that right duo, and we'll have to find out this major if that's Quanti.
All right, one last duo to discuss. This is Dragon RG. And of course, Alige, a duo I feel like I've heard a couple things about, but I'm not as familiar. So what can we learn about this duo?
So these are two players that have been playing together for a while now and had a 5th place over on NA West about a year ago. So they've had that synergy. They've had that time. Now they're getting a slight buff with the servers moving down to Dallas. Dragon, he's from Mexico, so, servers moving a little closer to him. Alige just moved all over. So, he just moves to wherever he wants. Nonetheless, that ping difference is going to be significant for them and help them out, especially showing out for the rest of the region.
Yeah, 100%. I like the fact that you mentioned ping, right? Because that can play a big factor in the mechanical aspect of the game. So hopefully this duo will be able to show some of that off today. Of course, landing over at Citadel as well. I'm pretty sure they're going to be uncontested. There's a couple question marks surrounding that, so we'll have to wait and find out.
We won't have to wait too much longer to find out. I'm excited to do that. But first, why don't we come this way? I talked about having a little interview, and that happened back in Major Number 1 with Trashy. Well, why don't we take a second, hang out with him again? Trashy, welcome back to the broadcast. It's good to see you. How have things been since we last talked?
Amazing.
That's fantastic. So I got to ask, man, what have you learned from Major 1 that you're hoping to bring in here to Major 2?
I've learned a lot of things. One thing is chemistry with my teammate and just playing the best together.
And of course, you guys do have that duo Cash Cup win. How are you guys feeling as a duo along with your coach, of course, coming in to week number 1 and of course making finals as well, which is great. How you guys feeling? Confident? What's going on there?
I'm super confident. I feel really prepared.
Awesome. Glad to hear that. You guys have started working with a coach a while ago, and why did you decide to do that, and who are you working with?
Yeah, we're working with Shokoladin. He's a crazy EU coach, and he's helped us so much. It's actually unbelievable.
How are you guys finding the NA East, NA West kind of clashing of styles, of duos, all of it? How's that feeling for you guys right now?
Honestly, it's not too different. The competition is a little higher, but I think we'll still dominate.
All right. I love the confidence. Trashy, for those out there that maybe don't know who you are, where can we find you?
Pretty much on all socials, it's TrashyFN_.
Awesome. Well, hey, man, best of luck in today's games. We'll catch you later. Thank you so much to Trash for hanging out. Now, of course, we did touch on this a little bit yesterday, but there have been some zone changes in Fortnite, which we don't see too often. Why don't you guys break this down for us?
Yeah, so pretty much the premise of these new zone changes is that there are now 3 new zones throughout this Fortnite game. However, the catch here is that there are still the same amount of moving zones as there was last season. So all these additional zones have been added in the early and the mid game, which essentially means that it's a lot less forcing, right? That mid and early game takes a lot more time to kind of get through, which means that players have a lot more time and area to kind of work with in those types of formats in the game. So let's go ahead and make that direct comparison now. I want to take a look at the first zone in previous seasons that we've seen. You guys can see here pretty much almost cuts off half of the map, right? So it was a pretty substantial rotate that a lot of teams had to make. But then if we go ahead and check out this season's first zone, covers pretty much the entire map.
And that has really affected how these early games have played out. You're not being forced to move early, so you can hang out a little earlier or a little longer at your location wherever you're dropping. But at the same time, there's now combat caches, those rift islands that are to play for in the mid game that are forcing these rotates and making these players move faster.
Yeah, a lot more time to, farm those resources, farm all that loot and everything like that. But of course, these zone changes are not only happening in the early and the mid game, also changed up these moving zones. Let's go ahead and compare moving zone. Let's first take a look at this season specifically. As you can see here, that first moving zone is going to be that smaller one on the right side, right? It's pretty much hugging that zone, so you don't really have to go really any distance. But then if we take a look at last season's moving zone, this one put itself off actually into the storm, right? So it was very, very hard to traverse that. End games were a lot more brutal because of that. But now, this season, right? Look how close they are. You can pretty much use one kinetic blade charge and you're already in that next zone.
Or just a couple of boxes will get you in there.
Yeah.
If you're right on edge, it's not too difficult to make those rotates. So we're going to see these teams come into these end games stacked because of the slower zones, taking it a little easier as we go into this end game. So everyone's going to have a little more mats, a little more heals, and it's going to come down to how exactly they play this.
And how has this kind of impacted the meta? Like, what have we seen develop recently?
Well, SPG kind of hit the mark, right? These zones are less punishing, so every single team just has more resources. And as a result of that, these zones are a lot less forcing, so teams aren't necessarily taking as many fights. They don't need to find those refreshes. And as a result of that, like I just mentioned, not as many fights are happening. And basically what that allows every single duo in the lobby to have is a plethora of heals, right? Because they're not using them in fights. They already have the materials that they need for every single moving zone going into the end game. So we just have teams that are stacked out of their minds. And, when that final zone closes, they're all just like, hey, I have all these heals, might as well use them. So that's why we're seeing so many heal offs. And of course, as well, that kinetic blade making these rotations a lot easy too.
Yeah, so you're saving those mats, you're saving those heals. There's not as much fighting going on. So these players, they know this, right? They all went back and watched EU. They know how these games are going to play out, and they're going to be ready. It's going to be a matter of who's able to figure out how to optimize these heals and make sure they're getting the best placement possible.
100%.
Okay, I love it. So pretty simple, right? More people means more mats and bigger loot pinatas when they're eliminated. That's it. That's the takeaway, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, everyone's going to be super stacked because they're not spending as much in that mid or early late game. Can I call that a thing?
First moving zone, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I like it. So do you guys think we're going to see more of kind of what we saw in EU, right? Games kind of going to the heal off, and then maybe some people going crazy doing some pop-up plays, but others will say, okay, look, you do your thing over there. I'm going to heal off over here with my pizza.
Yeah, 100%. Doesn't matter the region. Every single duo is feeling comfortable going into the late game with the resources, with the loot that they have, because like we mentioned, zones are a lot less punishing this season, so they're all just stacked and ready to go for those heal offs.
The cool thing is too, though, we saw from Juice Fishy yesterday, there's a chance for these awesome pop-off moments where you're using all those heals and just popping off.
Yeah, I love to hear. Well, hey, these are just two of the great minds we have here hanging out with us today. Why don't we introduce your casters and get their thoughts? It is Jacob PR, 112K.
Good to be here.
Happy to be here, man. The return of the West boys here on NA. You guys know I'm from that western region on the west side of the U.S., so I'm happy to see some of these guys shine.
I love to see it. Well, guys, here we are. NA. Now just NA. How's it feel? How are you feeling? Levin, you feeling okay?
I feel good. I'm happy, right? Some of the best West talent get a chance to shine. I was hoping I would have seen some of them here. Some of them have missed out, but it's only the first qualifier. I'm sure we'll see them throughout the season. Yeah, it's a great time to be a West fan, right? You get to show yourself on a bigger stage, a bigger platform. It's about just doing it right now, though.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a wake-up call, though, for the West guys. I'm a huge fan of them, and honestly, I want to see them succeed, so I'm laying it on them real. This is going to be a wake-up call. You're going to face something against these East competitors that you have not played against in quite a while, unless you're playing those cash cups on those cross regions, so you guys better be ready for the fight of your lives.
Yeah, and of course, for anybody wondering, there are 18 NA West players playing today, and then 82 NA East players playing today. Of course, they're all NA Central now, but previously those were their respective regions.
And a ton to play for. Not only is it just first place, obviously everyone wants to win, but it's those series points. Where you finish in the standings is really important for getting to grand finals.
I love the breakdown, guys. And of course, I know what everyone at home is loving too. It's games. They want what we want, and it is that time, so let's do this. What do games look like on NA now combined? What are we going to see? Heal off, pop-up plays? Yes. It is all going down right here, right now. So brace for chaos. This is game one.
I can't believe this is only game number 1 that we're about to see. And if I was sitting down, I would be at the edge of my seat.
Look, it's a great time to be a Fortnite fan in North America. Some of our favorite players from across the board, all on different teams now, right? The likes of Booga playing with new teammates. The likes of Peterbot, right? Former champion, recently champion, is playing with a new teammate in Quanti. Where will they place this season? Plenty of high expectations on them. But as with every single Fortnite competition, you know it's about dealing with those off-spawn battles. And we saw plenty of them in EU yesterday that didn't quite go the way in which people would have expected at times, right? We saw some top players struggling. Queasy and Venno at times went down. Almost a Malabuka. Will there be any surprises here on NA? For Vive and Skittles, they don't want any surprises at Bastion. They want to get the job done.
Yep, nice cheeky damage right out of the gates. You're mentioning off-spawn battles you guys already saw with that nice wide angle of 3 teams landing here. But that southern portion of Brutal Bastion, there's so much more loot on that side. And for the team, it's least contested on that side as well. So not too much to work with. That's a Vive Skittles, though. That's going to be on the north side, trying to claim as much of that as possible. Cease and Tragics on the south. And then Desma and Dorito just trying to take in the scraps on the northwest portion of Brutal Bastion. Whatever's left of it, I should say. But for everybody else, you can already see with the ODM gear in hand, if you don't have that mobility, Brutal Bastion, one of the few places on the map that does have multiple static launch pads. So if you don't get your Kinetic Blade or that ODM, you at least have a backup plan on Brutal Bastion. Oh. Dude, I was excited to see Quanti, Peterbot not straying away from Slappy Shores, and already right out of the gates with a full-on team wipe to get their surge and to go ahead and claim the rest of South Slappy to themselves.
Revive will come through here for Crisp. It's a nice way to start the game off and you win the fight. Let's see how he did that.
Okay.
Putting that pistol to work.
Easy. Easy does, easy comes, easy goes. Paper and Shadow, one of our newest teams to this season. Paper and Jampert failing to qualify for the FNCS Major 1 Finals last season. Kind of splitting up, going their separate ways. And honestly, Shadow's a player, man. He's one of those guys that's every single season progressing. He's every single season adding to his name, making sure that people kind of know who he is on this region. I always bring back to one of the first moments I really saw him pop off in one of those Elite Cups, 1v2 against Quan Jock to take the game in a top position overall. Paper and him kind of waiting for the 3-2-1, but miss every opportunity there. But they're going to keep it going. They find him separated, 2v1. This is the opportunity to strike.
And using that ODM gear to try get in. The stair being placed just to block. The angle wasn't favorable for the fight.
Death and Tahi just maneuvering around. They were separated moments ago, but instantly get in the same box as soon as the fight does begin. A team that, honestly, high hopes for them. At the top of everybody's must-perform list, I should say, at least towards Shattered Slabs, going against so many different players on this side of the map season after season since it became a POI to fight for. And now with the added vaults, we're going to see more teams begin to try to third-party in, which makes this fight so important. Paper drops down. He go ahead, gets the knock onto Tahi, leaving Death by himself. 1v2 situation. Piece control is not his. He's going to fail at that first attempt to go through. Get the second one, and he gets this nice shot on the Shadow, bringing it down to a 1v1. Him versus Paper. And Tahi is already down, so Death has all the heals from that one.
Yeah, Tahi just has to keep the distance a bit. Paper will be eager to get that shot through as quickly as possible. But Tahi just needs to keep control of this fight. Can't allow it to slip out of his hands. He has that edit, and he almost gets punished for trying to take the shot as well. Just slips away by crouching down to the left. Some nice movement there, but you see with no materials, it's just a matter of just mantling around all these builds to get through everything before a quick ascent up the hill, in which he will farm a tree to get some materials. The Paper is ready and waiting. He knows exactly where he is as well. He sees him, he spots him out.
Down the ramp. Paper's doing a good job of fighting back from the low ground as well. Something I mentioned early on with the Volt being over here towards Shattered Slabs. A lot of teams begin to try to rotate in, whether to get the key themselves or just to kind of get the scavenge loot that might be left behind. So the longer this one takes, the harder it's going to be for these two solos, not only to survive, but get their teammates back into the mix. And Paper's even using his game-tying augment right out of the gates because he knows how important the shield and HP actually is.
And I respect it. I will say, though, it's very rare to get that augment, and we see teams now, with the nature of the heal-off meta, being very, very eager to save that augment till the very end of the game. Paper, though, being forced to use it now, if he has any chance of actually having a game worth salvaging.
This is where it's going to get dangerous. We're going to have to try to think about what's next to come. As the Quinted and Sinetto end up with another bite here towards the low ground. That's TK on the other side. You can see him already trying to take the high ground, but TK not really building a stable structure for himself. Can easily take some shots and everything will come crumbling down. Ritual, low ground, these guys are separated. All it really takes is 1 second of separation between a duo for them to really go down. You can see DeQuinted a little bit more on that low ground. There goes the one structure holding him up. Down he goes as Sinetto is just trying to think outside of the box. Nobody really progressing here in this fight, though.
Yeah, you saw they're just trying to find the opening, right? Just to, you know, to get some damage. Gateway in to engage in a fight. That's not quite happening. Batman Booga.
It's my boys.
These are boys?
These are my boys over here, Batman Booga and Bacon. Formerly from the NA West region before we did combine the two. And this is what I wanted to see. If you're going to go ahead and waste all that time in the early fight just like this, you can see how that first elimination did get picked up. Paper just going for it right out of the gates. They were separated for so long, and he really took advantage of that one, but he lost his teammate along the way. That was Shadows who went down, and Paper goes back to back. Those third parties were forcing these players to interact.
You see how intense he is in that fight. Laser focus, locked in there, but it pays off, and Paper takes the win, and he'll have a chance now to reboot. But it does have to be very wary because there are quite a few players in this general area of the map. So
I feel like everybody in chat just lit up right now. Seeing Booga and Threats make their first appearance here in FNCS Major 2. This is going to be the finals. Where you place at the end of this one determines how many series points you get after these 3 weeks. Depending on if you're in that top 40 or not, you get that direct ticket to the finals, or you're going to have to go through Surge Week. For Booga and Threats, they've been performing pretty consistently since forming as a team. And Threats coming off of a big win in the last third-party event. And he fought tooth and nail for that one.
yeah, I'm a big fan of that duo's potential. Of course, I don't think it has to really be explained, but everybody is very high on Booga as a player. One of the best to ever do it. In my opinion, the best to do it on this region. Threats, very talented player. Very top aimer. Rarely misses any shots. One of my other favorite players. Batman Booga's your guy. This is my guy. These are my guys. The Yomzo and Rise. The duo who had everybody really excited about their chances of winning things last season. And coming into this one, I think there's been a bit of a downer for them, where when they were playing on NA East, they had a really nice ping. Everything was great. Yomzo, his style of play, being an aggressive fighter, was so effective. This time round, though, playing on Central, he doesn't quite have that ping advantage anymore. Has to change his style up a bit. Jack and Kwa here over at Mega in the midst of a fight. It's going to be Blue and Ice who they're fending off against.
Even got DeQuinted. I wouldn't say deep in Mega City by any means, but in the heart of it for sure. Gonna have an opportunity to try and go for that reboot. If I do believe that was Quan Jock, end up rotating on out. So you got G-Monster here with a huge monument in the sky. Him and Dom just trying to look for Storm Surge tags anywhere they can get it. Currently positioned at the top of Anvil Square. And as it stands, a lot of the teams towards the south, towards the east portion of the map are going to have to traverse through Anvil Square. So it's a great chance to set up for Surge tags of your own.
Thatch and Pamsu moving their way on through as well. Coming up and through this frenzy fields area, they have some really nice mats as well, Thatch there. Just has to farm up some brick. There's a lot of players struggling to get their brick up as well after the latest update, sorry. But there will be some rocks you can farm as they make their way on in here.
Here's a name I feel like I haven't seen in quite a while. Not so much Macwood, but Commandment on the side. A huge victory in Chapter 3, Season 3, coming back from behind to actually beat out Booga and Miro in that last one. So a huge boast of confidence going into that FNCS Invitational. Didn't necessarily perform to the standard in which they hoped, but I do like how he's just not really giving up, switching up teammates right here during a meta shift, and now he's going to have to dig deep, but onboard clicks, trying to go for some surge tags of his own. Takes about 100 damage, shields ripped right off. But trying to see what everybody's doing to get their Storm Surge. How are these getting their resource? I'm going to throw it over to the best Taco to go ahead and let us know how all these players are handling this new meta.
Jacob, Booga is the man of the hour in terms of collecting resources. He actually invested some time to rotate over from this hill and Steamy Springs in order to collect a lot of resources. The only concern I have here, though, is that he spent about a minute in the storm taking all those early ticks, which could come back to bite him later on. So maybe keep an eye out for that storm sickness and see how he fares in the late game.
Yeah, depending on how much damage he actually took in total, he we'll probably have to leave the heal off responsibilities to Frets come endgame. I don't think he took too much, so it may not be that big of an issue come time. Bacon, though, struggling here a bit. Batman Booga's been taken down, and he's going to have to pop a slurp to stay in this one.
Liam is picking up that Mythic Havoc with that one-shot potential. Increase through the roof. Bacon really has to be careful here. And I honestly like the idea to just disengage overall. Just get out. Try to get Batman Booga back into the mix. This is game number 1. You don't want to go down early. You don't want to leave it on the last 5 chances to really come out on top. So for Bacon, depending on if you got that reboot card or not, you can see why he's staying for so long. You see Jitter was down. And that's exactly why Bacon and Batman Booga try to press the temple. Unfortunately enough, press just a little bit too much by himself, goes down, and gives Liam a chance to actually fight back.
Yeah, Liam's back was against the wall there, and he just said, nah, look, I'm taking this fight. And it paid off. Rise in the Yomzo. Here in zone, and Rise spots an opportunity to just stop that team on the other side of the bridge from making their way across. Making it that much more awkward for them in the position they're currently in. Putting that damage up a bit. Cease and Tragics still over towards Sebastian. About 10 minutes later.
The thing about this situation here, and Booga from moments ago, is because of the new zone changes, yeah, they're taking damage, and they're lessening their probability of winning off of heal off due to Storm Sickness, but because of it only being 1 tick, they're not taking that much Storm Sickness compared to if it was those later zones, maybe even taking 2 damage or more. So at least they're giving themselves a chance if they're able to take down the right players, as NPen and Polarize. Just going for the weapons cache. Extra loot is always better. Going to be uncontested going for that one as well. But you can see the common trend from this early game, and hopefully these players are going to learn as the day does go on, is that storm damage that they're taking. And you got to notice, though, both Polaroids and NPen are both sitting by. Instead of just going a few steps forward, maybe Polarize can box himself out of zone. That way he doesn't have to take the damage, but they're going to at least get something for their efforts. You see 2 different stacks of legendary Slurp Juice. A huge tool for a lot of these players' survival through the game, but it's also a huge tool in that heal off, as Poyo just takes so much damage. Another one of our NA West players playing with keyboard here. Great chance to put some respect on your name here in the first weekly finals.
Of course. Right, and if you're Poyo, obviously Poyo was playing with Booga before FNCS started this season. Unfortunately, didn't get the chance to play out the remainder of the season with him. And so if you're Poyo, you want to prove to people, hey, look, it didn't work out with me and Booga, but I am still someone that every top player should be wanting to play with. And there's no better chance than to show that here on this stage, here in qualifier 1 as well, and everybody's watching.
You can see Defiable and Kinzo finished as the highest ranked duo from the former NA West region during round 2. So at least goes to show that they're trying to progress, they're trying to adapt. And the biggest thing to me is their overall aggression from NA West versus the methodical, strategic style of play that NA East harbors. Will it pay off? I'm still not necessarily convinced yet, but that's why I love watching out these games. I love to be proven wrong by these NA West players.
Yeah, I think that's the general sort of feeling and consensus. I think in some individual cases, right, we see a difference there. But hopefully after this major, we won't even see it as NA East or NA West teams anymore. It'll just be, hey, they're an NA team. That's all it is. So Viv and Skittles still making their way on in. Habib just slightly more ahead. So it won't take Skittles much time to catch up with that gear he has.
A few seconds as the zone continues to go towards the west side. A little bit of a north pull, but for Rokane and Vert, 58 below. On what could be the congested side of the zone, they're going to have opportunities to try to go for some damage, but first for them, got to go ahead and take some height, getting some elevation. That way you can survey the field. Vert having a little bit of trouble, but at least Rokane's there, beat him to the punch, start to put down shots. So as soon as Vert gets a little bit of this elevation himself, you're going to see him begin to try to, in theory, put down the shots needed to go above the Storm Surge threshold. But Cooper and Emerald Road King, and you can see now, Emerald Road King, where the other half of Bugha's duo ended up team-wise, 836 above the damage threshold for them. If they didn't take any storm damage up until this point, they're going to be in a great spot. 2 legendary slurp juices, 6 splashes, and that's just on Cooper alone.
Yeah, this is a really nice setup. Going into the last stage of this game. Ooh, that's not. Keyboards maybe slamming it after the way he goes down there. Unfortunately sent back to the lobby. Liege based up here on top of this castle at the Citadel. Using a lot of brick, to be fair, which isn't something you often see people spending much of nowadays. I'm very interested to see what his count is at now, if they were able to cap out. Otherwise, that may be something they have to adjust moving forward.
But this team, thanks to, SBG and the little bit of the knowledge I have of my West boys, we got a little bit of buff when it came to the ping. So I'm expecting a little bit of a buff performance coming out of them because they are definitely one of the top teams in the region.
The key thing, right, is that it just gives you an opportunity to play a play style that maybe is a bit more aggressive.
Yeah.
Right? You know, going into fights, you're confident in taking walls. Can't allow it to cloud the way you play completely.
Looking at the zone right now, we got a little bit of water in this one. But the more important thing is the different elevation changes through this next terrain as TK and Ritual got themselves a congested side on the south side of the zone. Luckily for them, they don't got far to move, but at the same time, there's so many other teams stacked around them. Just grabbing the rest of the slices of pizza, thanks to game time, to go ahead and traverse through the rest of this one. Only 22 above the damage threshold. That's going to allow them kind of have a little bit of flexibility, but not too much, because as soon as they drop down, they're going to have to look for it. But as I say that, 139 above, giving them more room to work with.
Not much room. They need to get aggressive onto this team here and start doing some damage. The opportunities are there. They can hear them fighting if they pick their window carefully. There'll be some damage there to be dealt. Jeff is literally on the other side of this cone. You can see TK, Ritual just scouting it out, figuring out what is exactly going on. And I think now that they've gotten a sniff of it, they know, look, Jeff is right here. We can't play into his hand. We have to keep our cool. Katanas will come out as they make their move onto that zone.
Kind of what Vivid was talking about, though, when he was breaking down a lot of the zones in the pre-show, is 1 or 2 kinetic blade charges you're going to get into those zones. I know he was more so referencing those moving zones that we're going to come into about zone number 9. But you're going to see that a lot of these players are able to save a lot of the resources, save a lot of the mats due to the new changes. And it's about kind of who plays perfect. And that's the thing with this new meta. You have to play as close to perfect as possible. Coming down to the wires, Ledesma 234 below the damage threshold. Perfect is right out the window for him. And Doritos, it's all about survival. They got Shore, they got Day. And the return of Day, that's what this season is looking like. But he gets boxed up, tagged up, knocked down as well. Shore's going to be left by himself to try to survive. He's able to fight back. He gets at least one elimination for his efforts, back-to-back at that, keeping him and Day's game alive.
But not for much longer. Shore did his best. But unfortunately, there were players waiting. That's the nature of this game. When all these players are so packed together, the margins of error are so finite. The game must go on. The zone pulling towards the west. And that's going to leave the majority of the teams in this lobby waiting desperately to try get in. The Fireball popping that snub just in the nick of time. And the Chug Specials will get him up just a bit more as well. He's a solo in this game, and in fact, he's no longer in this game. Tries to take the Angel, and it doesn't quite pay off. Elige, if he's aware, he will be able to take a pulse rifle from this. I think he'll look for it. And yeah, he'll quickly pick that up. Everybody wants that pulse rifle in inventory. I don't think he meant to use the kinetic blade in that manner. Gonna have to tank a couple Chug Specials again. Just maybe a bit of panic there. I've done it myself. Finally getting into the zone, but has to move a bit more if he actually wants to be safe in the zone before the storm catches up on him again.
Thinking of Liege right now, he's tranquilo, needs a little bit more paciencia. He needs to be patient in these situations, and that's why you see him fumbling with that kinetic blade. And another thing, with this ping differential, your timings change up so much from editing to even using something like a kinetic blade. But if anybody can really make magic happen, it is going to be someone like Elige. So many fans, so many supporters out there giving him so much energy, trying to root him on. But Nounsy and ZZ over on the other side, they got high ground for now, but this is where the zones are going to begin to move. And you can see a lot of those teams on the south side, they don't got much moving to do. But for Nounsy, he has to go ahead and fly across all that madness that is the low ground.
Yeah, Snake and Mega, they are down below. They're buried beneath so many teams right now. And Rise and Yomzo might punish them for this. You saw them knocking at that door. But they are just going to create a bit of space, move out of the way. Rise patiently waiting for Clicks to peek out. Fortunately, Clicks ramped over and so will not take any damage there. But you see, these guys are just looking back at all those teams that aren't quite in the zone. Jack and Quart, here just playing around that shield bubble and going to look to use their blades to move all the way around that left side, up and around all those different teams into safety on the front side of the zone.
I was talking about chats getting loud for Booga. I can just imagine the chat just erupting for Clicks, but everything comes crashing down. Luckily for the kinetic blades, Nounsy and ZZ are going to be able to survive, live to fight another day, as they continue to try to maintain some sense of that high ground, quickly using their kinetic blades to try to take it back. Nobody really contesting them for now, but a lot of materials being expended to make that a possibility. Just like here, Yamto on the defensive end, trying to stabilize him in Rise's position. That way they can use their shields, use their heals to get back up to shape. The fight for the high ground begins. Threats takes a huge tag. Booga is trying to do everything he can to fight for it, but with that amount of damage on the Threats, he has no choice but to disengage.
Yeah, that was really tough for them. They took a large chunk, but fortunate to both be alive still in this one. And I'm sure they may look to take it again yet. Yomzo and Rise down on low ground, but struggling in the backside. They have to move out of the way.
Great fight right now from Jock. Great shots, hidden quad playing great into the same box. Sometimes it's hard with only one cover, two players, both of them trying to edit. They've been playing together for so long. Chemistry is just out of this world. But a team that is playing like they've been together for so long. Clicks and Dukes outlasting everybody. I said Dukes, but it's actually Sentin Soup come home. Excuse me there. And they're doing so well together. IGL, and that's going to allow Clicks to focus more on being a fragger.
Yeah, they've been playing a lot better of late, and maybe we're starting to see the results manifest out of it. Clicks connecting onto Yomzo there, and I believe that was Rise as well. No, it was Mega that falls as well. big shots, big damage being dealt by Clicks, and it allows him and Soup to just keep moving forward. As the tarps come through. Everything now, look at Peterbot here with Quanti. They're still up in this one, and they take down Acorn. That's the reigning champ that they're picking up. And again, just gonna look to top round, claim this layer. Rise is the one on it. They have to push him off, force him down. And unfortunately, he doesn't have any mats. So that's gonna be his end, you'd love to think. But he's still managing to stay alive here.
Ariel is playing a huge role in him not getting stuck on that low ground. Quickly using the kinetic blade charges as soon as they come up. Bacon, we saw him last as a solo, found a way to get Batman Booga back into the game and get 8 eliminations as a duo. Mythic Habit pump in hand, turns, tries to take out one, but he falls, leaving it all up to Batman Booga. He says, I got the reboot on you, don't let me down.
Staying alive and just barely one tick away from going down in the storm, and needs to be careful dancing, turning around. He lost the piece, but he still stays alive. Has the right hand peek, but gets taken out from behind. It's ZZ that picks up Clicks as well. Moving back into the safe zone, has to quickly run in, scurry in and build above. And just makes their way in. Peterbot and Quanti. Quanti, I believe, has started to heal off, and so Peterbot's job right now is to make sure these two have no chance of paying for a heal off, and it looks like Peterbot's doing just that. Picks up one, looking now to try and close it out, and couldn't do it against Nounsy. Nounsy wins the fight, gets the trade, but Nounsy doesn't really have heal off, but the Quanti's run out as well. It's just about who hits the shot. Who's it gonna be? Quanti 1 HP and barely survives, hits the last shot. And it's Peterbot and Quanti that pick up the first game here in NA.
Wow, magnificent sides right before our very eyes. And it's only game number 1. Great job to Peterbot, though. He stopped that heal off from even being a possibility. It had me shaky there at the last moment when he went down and that siphon went over. But great job all the way for Quanti for timing those heals perfectly.
Yeah, look, timing it perfectly. He left it a bit late, right? You saw, started going for heal off a bit too early, maybe. And so had to make up for it by just running back in and winning the fight. Didn't lose his cool. And it came down literally one more tick. If he didn't hit the shot at that timing that he did, it literally would have been over. It would have been wraps. You see here, right, once Peterbot got picked up, look, 3 seconds here. Wow, 5 HP and hits the shot right on time. And a great start for a team that is very much, you know, a favorite to potentially come out and win things this season, and showing us their intentions here in game 1.
Yeah, it's honestly a great sight to see that it went down to a 2v2. No more minute heal-offs here on NA. Great job for Peterbot and Quanti to stop that one short and hopefully take first place on the leaderboards. We're going to throw it over to Zeke and our great friends to break it all down.
That's what I'm talking about, baby. That's the Fortnite of old. Yesterday, I asked the question, was the solve to the heal-off aggression? Turns out they said yes. Yes, it is, Zeke. Yes.
I mean, of course, leave it up to Peterbot, right? Somebody that we literally just called, like, what was it, 30 minutes ago, the best mechanical player on NA, to find some of these eliminations, to find some of these refreshes, and kind of force this endgame into a 2v2 situation, which, of course, Quanti clutches up. Huge win. First win on NA for Peterbot and Quanti.
The first team ever to win an FNCS qualifying game on NA. And Peterbot, bruh, what are you? It's just incredible what this guy does game after game. And shout out to Quanti, icing those veins, just taking it home and making sure he hits that final shot.
I mean, listen, it was close though, right? He did hit the final shot. I think there was like one that he threw in there that was maybe a little bit of a miss. Some red eye shots going a little astray, but that window right there, 1 second window, 5 HP, still found it, and we'll find them at the top of the leaderboard, 81 points, Zeke.
I mean, it's looking pretty good, right? No one freak out. This is just the first game on the day. And as a reminder, we are playing here for series points, right? After 3 weeks, we'll take the top 40 from the series point leaderboard, and they will go straight to finals. So a lot of these duos really looking to try and place top 10 would be huge after this first week. But as we start to look down the list, guys, I just gotta say, seeing, you know, and we're gonna harp on this a lot because remember, NA just happened. This merge just happened. Seeing NA West players that I'm so used to seeing and then seeing NA East names on one leaderboard, it feels awesome.
Hey, it's good. A duo that we've seen a lot, though, throughout history's past, right? Yamzo and Rise duoing up now. They were looking good that game.
They were. I was pretty much guaranteed by an Iamzo Rise fan account they're gonna finish top 3. So I mean, they've pretty much done it every single time they've played together, and just the consistency we see from these guys, understand exactly how to play these games. And Rise did a little more. We were all watching this he should have gone down a couple places earlier.
He was absolutely moving here, making sure that he kind of utilized every single thing that he had. Aerialist, the kinetic blade recharges as soon as they came up, make sure he went up in the sky, making himself a very hard target to hit, and picking up just a couple more placement points. We'll find them in the top 10 leaderboard simply because of that solo clutch.
So dope. How are you guys feeling coming in? So obviously we had 6 games from EU yesterday, coming in now to NA. How do we feel like the regions maybe differ right now? Obviously, the gameplay is going to look similar, but I feel like there are a little bit of nuance that is different.
Yeah, I think the difference is EU is typically known as more aggressive, and NA tends to reel it in when it comes to Storm Surge. But in the end, that meant everyone had a little less heals going into the end of the game, a little less material, and that's pretty much why we saw this game end earlier than we've seen. And if that's any indication, I'm very happy to watch 5 more.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I think in EU yesterday, there was Storm Surge going off in that 5th zone, which of course is that 78 player threshold. But we should have skipped that on NA, right? There was so much aggression in that early game. So they didn't even get to see that threshold actually kick off this game.
And for me, when we do take a moment to highlight Storm Surge, it felt like there were so many duos that they were just out in the storm, right? How many duos did we just cut to? And they're just taking ticks and ticks and ticks. Remember, storm sickness is a thing. What is that all about?
Well, I mean, Storm Surge, of course, it's a running count, right? You have to take 600 damage before that starts to kick in. But let's talk about, Storm Surge and Storm Surge strategy, right? New season, all these new zones. But one thing that stays the same is, of course, Storm Surge strategies. Let's take a look at Batman Booga's kind of position here, right? The reason why he is positioning himself here is because look at this. All these teams on this congestion side, he knows they're all going to be coming in this way, and he is preemptively already in that position, waiting for them to make sure that he can kind of get those tags as all of those duos are kind of rotating towards him.
And they're all the way up on that mountain. So we can see right here, this is a perfect view of what they see. They see pretty much the entire lobby right now.
Yep.
And while everyone's rotating in from the edge of zone, they're just getting picked. Batman, Booga, and Bacon are like, these are free, easy tags. Give me all these. And they don't have to worry about Storm Surge after this one.
Yeah, 100%. They went to this position. They were about 100 above. Afterwards, after they get all of those tags in, it's at around 500 above. So very smart position to kind of poise up there in 3rd place because of that.
So absolutely insane. I'm telling you, man, aggression, aggression, aggression. That's what we like to see, NA. Let's get more of that. And I think we have 5 more games. Again, we just can't let this go to a heal off. Let's just go in, jump in someone's box. Let's get this done.
Listen, I was watching through those movies and I was like, wait, no heal off, no heal off, no heal off. And me and SPG are calling it a storm play rather than a heal off for Quanti.
We used to see those all the time. Someone would dive into zone, pop a med kit. That way they could get a little more placement and then go into zone.
Yep.
There you go. Simple, clean. That's what we like to see. Now, it is that time. We're ready to jump back into all the action. Remember, 5 more games ahead of us here in NA. So find your seats on the bus. It's game time.
With game number 1 done, game number 2 begins. And for all those players that might have been a little nervous, might rethink their strategy, because here it is, with everything on the line, Levin, practice is over.
Hey, look, you can't afford to rip it all up just because game 1 didn't go your way, right? You still have a bunch more games to go. And I think if you're a team that made it to this round, clearly there's something in the formula that you have going for you. It's all about making sure that works out. Now, I think the big thing, right, is being able to win your off-spawn battle. Make sure you get that part of the game done. And if you're not done off-spawn, if you don't have to worry about fighting in that stage of the game, making sure you get early surge tags, figure out who it is you can bully in your general area.
Yeah, we're going to be looking at a lot of these teams to figure out who's really going to up their game. Who learned what after game number 1, because we saw something that we really didn't expect to see. It was that storm push, as our analyst called it at the end, not necessarily a heal off. Will the games continue to progress in that same manner? I'm not sure, so they got to be able to adapt in this same finals that we're seeing already.
Yeah, that is the trend here this season, this major. It's about your ability to adapt. Who can do this here in game number 2? The battle bus is ready. Players are dropping. Icon and commandment there at the bottom of your screens, gliding their way on in, and the rest of the lobby will be following suit as well.
Yep. Just like last game, though, with the bus path, a little bit different, but it's still going to allow for the teams on the northeastern portion of the map to get a little bit of that hot drop, get into the fight that much quicker. There's a jump on board Aviv yet again. This time around, though, he doesn't have that same opportunity to pop the shots. He sees one lone player at the top of the mountain, but knowing I cannot continue to waste my time. This is the early game. Looting up, matting up, getting resources is going to be so important.
See here, off spawn. The winners of game one may be running into some trouble if they're not careful. Lawrence, hide and seek, gonna look to try and win their battle here on the south side of Slappy, sorry. Quanti will get some time to loot up though. Just have to glide around the building for a second just to figure out where it is exactly they could land to loot.
Last time we saw this one kind of end up with Crisp taking down majority of those players, the two to be exact, doing most of the damage. As Yuz got a good trade, made it 1 for 1. You see Trash, she's getting one in the feed as well. So this early game proven to be very, very active for a lot of these teams. Even Quanti and Peterbot, a team we saw moments ago at Slappy Shores, finishing off that fight and claiming the rest of South Slappy to themselves.
Winning out the fight at South Slappy. See how they did it, just charging in with their shotguns. Charging in. And on the other side, it didn't seem like Lawrence had a shotgun. I'm not sure if hide and seek did either, so unfortunate for them that they weren't able to maybe quite get the loot to match up with what Peterbot and Quanti had.
Shadow and Paper. Paper clutched up big in that last game. Grab as many points as he could, but Shadows just has a sliver of both HP and shield, trying to rotate around, put himself in a better spot. Him and Paper are actually going to try and disengage altogether, but they go in 2 different directions, which could be disastrous if either Death or Tahi spots that one out. But back on over to Yuz and Chris in a battle that's already started, and a huge shot's going to be fired by Yuz. Gets the edit, misses the second one, and misses that opportunity. He goes down altogether. It's going to be left up to Crisp in a 1v1 situation against Curly, who has 3 HP. Crisp, slowly but surely, trying to back down. Doesn't want to give up this opportunity, grabbing the siphon, making sure he has as much HP and shield as possible for this inevitable fight that will continue.
Just take a limit, it would have been fine, but the med mists coming through is just going to mean that Curly might be able to tank 1 more shots.
Crisp hears him heal him up at the very minimum.
Yep, he'll know he is higher up in HP, but I don't think that'll phase him. He needs to just connect with the shots. Maybe some SMG spray will do him wonders as well.
Because Curly has only the combat in his arsenal right off the spawn. He's going to have to work for this one, but Chris immediately dives in, takes down Curly, leaving himself more than enough time to get the revive onto Yuz.
Yeah, exactly that. Hit 1 shot with the combat and then followed up with some SMG sprays. Nice and easy. Tragics and Cease here over at the Brutal Bastion. Again, we're seeing players fighting at these POIs that hold the vaults.
Last 2 teams here, and for Cease and Tragics, they got a couple of victory royales in round number 2 to get up to this point, so they're no strangers to being contested, to fighting over towards Brutal Bastion. Cease, though, lacking some HP, where Tragics is doing his darndest to be the tip of the spear, try to take over those pieces, but that's Dorito and Ledesma. Great job holding on, not backing down, especially on the defensive end, going up against these 2 players. They're trying to contest this capture point as long as possible, doesn't want to give over the free loot. But Track just finally gets that piece control to go into his favor, but it's going to come at a sacrifice. He takes a good shot. But it's a nice bait and switch from both Cease and Tragics playing a game of peekaboo. They were able to take down one onto Ledesma. And the thing is, they're going to know. They're going to know if Dorito tries to escape, because they're going to be able to capture the point again.
Some storm fighting taking place between Batman Booger right now and Bacon.
Saw Batman Booger go down a little bit earlier in that last game, but 60 points overall. Bacon did a good job of not only winning that fight, but bringing Batman Booger back into it altogether. Consistency over the next 6 games going to be key, and you can already see Batman, Booga, and Bacon led all teams in total damage dealt in game number 1 for just over 2,800 damage. And that's what I expected to see coming out of some of these West players entering into this arena.
Yeah, these guys were playing their part in the last game for sure, and we'll see if they can continue on that trend here. This is where it would start, I guess, right, by dealing some damage in this fight. Bit of a stalemate though, both teams low in resources. Edward gingerly axing away at that brick. Doesn't give him any builds though. So still not going to be working with much. Batman Booga from above just has 5 himself and is quickly running out of ammo. We need to connect with this shotgun, otherwise there isn't a spray weapon really to follow up with other than the AR and the 2 shots remaining in it.
Interesting to see him favor that charge pump shotgun, but at least he has some distance between him and his opponents and could still pack a punch. That's Saucy and Edward towards the low ground, and almost begs you to ask the question, how long are Batman, Booga, and Bacon going to stay in this position? You see them popping game time, throwing down a pizza, so they're here for the long run. Just kind of throwing a question mark up due to the storm damage that they're taking, their heal-off potential. But if game number 1 showed anything, it means that not every single one of these moments will come down to a heal-off on NA.
Of course, right? And I think a big part of fights like these that we see is that, you know, a lot of the time in these qualifiers, right, players are trying to condition their opponents, right? Condition players in this general area or wherever they land. Condition them to be ready for what they intend to do in the finals, right? If you're Batman, Booga, and Bacon, you win this fight out here against these guys, you let them know, look, do not mess with us. When it comes time for the FNCS final, and we're there, we will make everything that much more difficult for you. Edward and John, they are slowly but surely going to run out of things here. Of course, that med miss is going to keep them in it for a bit longer, but you've got to think a fight is going to happen at some point. Things are sort of bubbling over the edge.
8 shots of the Maven onto Bacon. You could see why they're not necessarily trying to go for the piece control. They have no medium ammo. He can't tag it up with a red eye or that Havoc suppressed assault rifle. Neither one of those really going to be useful in Bacon's inventory. So it almost makes me wonder, like, just with the zone pulling towards the east, you almost disengage, play a little bit of mind games. Maybe you could turn at the last possible moment. They're just going to choose to stay.
Playing mind games is staying. That is playing mind games in this situation. Booga and Threats playing for Surge here. An attempt at a pinch, Threats attacking from one side, Booga from the other. And hopefully Threats was able to line up some shots as Booga played as the distraction. Wow. Finally they begin to fight, and it will be Batman, Booga and Bacon that win out the battle. Take a look at that first elim from Batman Booga. Held that charge in hand. Released onto his opponents with a burst of pellets that they could not handle.
To me, it's just one of those situations to where, was it worth it? How impactful was that to your game? Did you need the damage? A lot of questions to be answered. But by the end of this game, those, well, we'll figure those out as they come. Over towards Mega City, we got Clicks, we got Soup, not too far away from their racetrack. They kind of box themselves up at the highest mountain possible to get their surge. And they're overlooking Mega City. Taco, what's so important at Mega City for these teams to gather?
Well, for starters, Jacob, there are a numerous amount of teams that have actually chosen to drop here at Mega City, and Jeff has definitely made sure to take note of that. He's actually opted to prioritize taking out High Card. That way he can make sure to secure the Vault Key Card, and with this, the mythic Havoc Pump Shotgun. So now, he's definitely got the loot available, but can he get the Victory Royale? We'll have to find out.
He's definitely looted up like anyone could possibly be. Legendary slurp juices. He has the mythic havoc pump, like Taco was just saying. Honestly, you could do with just a regular common red eye. You have what you need in your inventory already for him. It's just about not taking that storm surge to give yourself 2 different win conditions. The win condition of just taking over the game like we've seen in game number 1, and then the meta win condition, which is heal off.
Akon and Colds. You saw them make it deep into that first game before they were taken out in those moving zones. Found themselves caught towards the backside of the zone and couldn't quite get out of dodge.
Reboot coming out over towards Anvil Square, and that's why you see D-Roller and Jackson sacrificing some HP and shield damage. That way they can head over in this direction. Instead of just going for the guy reboot, they want the bonus points. They want 2 more eliminations building up into the sky. That's going to be Dom, who's just trying to get out any direction that he can, even if it's not towards his duo, D-Roller and Jackson, because they were taking damage from a third party. Didn't really get the attempt to take him down like they wanted.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of Storm fights, a lot of Storm plays. I feel like half this game you spent watching in the Storm. That's where these players are. And of course, you mentioned it, right? It's not as punishing, right? 1 tick, you feel like you can stay in here for a bit longer. Of course, we do know if you take too much Storm damage, you're going to be at the mercy of Storm sickness come time the end of the game. This, though, is something that I've been waiting to see. You get to see the Rift Island spawn in, and the Yomzo and Ryze are set up perfectly to go pick that up. You can see them ramping up. I believe if they have Kinetic Blades, they'll be able to get up. No Kinetic Blade, but ODM gear. And Ryze just building up towards it. Not without some challenges, though. Players taking shots at them. They don't want to let them get it for free. And nothing's going to stop Ryze and the Yomzo from picking up these pulse rifles. And what they could do with them potentially could be very, very crazy for the rest of the lobby, right? If you allow these guys to get them deep into the game, we saw them popping off on low ground, but you know they can also play height. Pulse rifles very effective at chopping out high ground, lasering the players as they drop down as well.
I'm just hoping, because everything that you said was all facts, no printer at all. And the Rift Island, though, is in the center of the zone almost. That's going to give them so much information. It's going to give us so much time at the top of the island, separation from everybody else. And the interesting thing to see for me is nobody's really boxed up underneath to try to go ahead and use those rifts.
I think one of the big things is with the nature of where the Rift Island spawned is that depending on how the zones pull now for the rest of the game, you might actually be able to run back or katana back to the Rift Island come heal off time. And there is going to be plenty of spare loot up there, I'm sure, that you'll be able to use for heal-offs.
You're right. I just took a look at the zone. The way it has been going throughout the weekend, you include EU, there is such a high probability as Elise just takes down Jackson J that for the first time here in FNCS, that Rift Island is going to be in play for a couple more zones than we have hoped, which is honestly going to force some players to adapt, because some players like to build those mighty monuments in the sky to try to get surge tags. Well, now the highest point on the map is going to be that island.
Which just mean that the teams have to rotate through the area, have to be wary of Yomzo and Ryze. They'll be perked up on top. And some nice ODM gear limbs coming through from Bacon there. We saw a bunch of those yesterday in EU, and one of the first of many we'll see here on NA as well.
Yeah, man, Bugo's only a matter of time. Ramping up. He's one of the duos right here between Bacon and Batman Bugo that I feel like just needs time on this combined region. And they are going to be one of the top competitors coming from the west side of North America. Jock and Qua. You kind of see their loadout. Isn't the best, but it's not necessarily the loadout, but it's the user who uses it. Men miss, splashes. At least has enough to continue to push himself into the next phase of the game.
Gibbo and Quanti here. The winners of game 1. They won their battle of spawn here at the south side of Slappy, and they've not had to move all game. They can sit here comfortably, get their tags. Gearbot based up above. There's all that field of view, all that vision. Quincy down below, different angles. For this duo though, you have a long ways to go to get to zone. Don't have the luxury of just sitting there based up like we saw from Gearbot and Quincy.
Using the natural terrain to move through, take little to no damage as he entered the trench at the very least, because you saw him get tagged up, trying to ODM gear, rotate his way to safety. But as soon as he has some more room to work with, he quickly begins to try to get on out. 163 below as we tune into Landshock and Zuki's. Something you don't really expect to see this far out of zone, where they still have to rotate into the team they're actually putting those tags on. So interested to see how they're going to be able to make it out alive.
Yeah, this is so tough for Landshock, right? You know, a lot of the time we see teams tank zone, but, you know, they have some sort of white heels to go with it. Thought she does find the med kits, and whoa, finds a nice shot there as well, to be fair. I wonder how they're doing in terms of surge, because that might have been a pivotal shot for them in that game. That was definitely a pivotal shot from Acorn and Cold as they move well above that surge threshold, but there's still players in this area and they know right on the other side of that wall. Acorn opened up the edits, was greeted by two players with their shotguns out.
Just kind of waiting. They already got their loot. They already won their fight. Less than 20 seconds. Next zone is going to appear. For them, it's just about gathering information, figure out where they're going to go next. Widow, Madden, doing the same thing, just outside of zone. Probably trying to just build a little bit more comfortability, stack up their Storm Surge that much more, knowing all these teams are going to have to rotate past them. But timing is important. You don't want to let all those teams bypass you and begin to hold you out of the zone. As they quickly begin to rotate on over, they see it start to get congested, and they don't want to be the last ones there. This is interesting. Kind of boxing up in the middle of the ocean. Kind of giving themselves a little bit of a 50-50. Zone's going to either go south or north in this next pool. But Jeff and Rapid, they're just kind of hoping it's on their side.
Yeah, but even if it pulls north with where they're positioned now, they have free passage to get there. No worries at all here on the dead side of zone.
Close by where Madden and Widow are just taking so much damage. Luckily, they have the slap factory there. If any barrels are remaining. But 273 below the damage threshold. Quickly moving on up, but that's because Zuki's and Landshock did get taken down. Brett's taking down Eoxy as well. Getting two as swirls out. Madden and Widow are kind of just blessed right now with another opportunity. Try to scavenge, refarm up here towards the south side of Slappy Shores. The zone continues to move all these teams around.
Moss popping some pieces. They need healing. Maybe could have used one of the shield kegs per se.
Maybe, I heard a med miss, but maybe it's just he didn't have enough. He just didn't have enough overall, and you can see why they even needed those heals in the first place. Getting stuck just outside of the zone, fighting for the surge damage that they need. A trade in tags, but luckily for them, they have to very minimum come out on top.
This is new. Threats doesn't have Booga in this game, and so we'll be playing it as a solo. But anything is possible for Threats. 4 mythical slurps. I'd like to think that keep him in the game for quite a while if he can just play his mats. Play the Kinetic Blade. The Zone Rise, another game here where they are deep in, and we saw them earlier claiming that Rift Island, and the pulse rifles in inventory are a result of that.
Almost intimidating even to me, just hearing those get fired off in the distance. Gotta make sure you see those ones coming, otherwise you could get terrorized, tagged up through the builds. Clicks in soup. 39 below as quickly land some shots, getting themselves above. For Clicks, the only heals he actually has right now, outside of the shield fish, because that gets you shields, is going to be that pizza that he got from Game Time. Batch is going to get one. Everybody really trying to get active as the zone does congest everybody closer and closer together as Batman, Booga, and Baconata find another knock on a Pam. So you can see them biding their time, playing patient. They don't want to get greedy and kind of get surprised. So great job for them. Kind of pull that body back in, get all the loot that they can instead of kind of getting the elimination outside of zone and taking some damage to get the loot.
Playing for the knock. Once they get the loot, they can start to plan out their next rotation. The good thing for them, right, is that they don't have to move too far. Lots of players will have to start moving to where they are.
Kind of see what their idea is. They're just peeking around, seeing if any of that loot is useful. Kind of look at their inventory just by judging off the shotgun and the medium ammo. They don't need much. They're just kind of looking for resources, heals. Fatch kind of shoved down to the low ground. Has ODM gear at least to rotate on out, but he lost Pamsu. He knows Batman, Booga, and Bacon are close by, so he's just biding his time, playing patient, so he doesn't get taken down. There's Jock and Wall. They're trying to move forward, but they get beamed out by Yamzo and Rise. And there goes the terrors of the pulse rifles that we were talking about.
That is just not what you want to be walking into. It's like a laser beam. It's like literally like a piece of tape put up. You cannot pass through here. If you cross this line, you will be sent to the lobby. Wow, with now 22 HP, no builds. The only hope is a massive shot, and even a massive shot probably won't be enough.
Normally being South Slappy, I think the opportunity for the slap barrel is going to be there, but spent so long in this position. They all got to be scavenged and gone. And 2 empty med miss kind of added on top of it. Not looking good, but for Bump and Trashy, a little bit of a different story. 767 above the damage threshold. A couple heals to work with, but our game number 1 winners with the highest position on the map, poised to possibly take the next game if they play their cards right.
Look, this is one of the easiest games they'll play all season long. They've not had to move all game. They landed at South Slappy Shores, and here we are, 20 minutes in at Slappy Shores. Their POI, their home turf, their home zone, and a chance to do back-to-back. They won the first game ever in this new North America region, and they're going to look to try continue that 100% success rate. Clicks and Soup down below on Surge, so they desperately need to find something. They can sort of sit here and out heal for the meantime.
3 slices being shared, and kind of shows that they're down on their luck, down on their heals as well, which is honestly surprising. They have 6 eliminations up until this point, with the NA region all over being active. Clicks and Soup even down when it comes to the Storm Surge. Almost makes you wonder what is really going on. Everybody really trying to play for placement the best that they can, playing a little bit too safe. But Soup at the right moment, able to get a knock onto one, but Click's taking so much damage from an angle, has to separate between him and Soup before trying to try this one again. Tries to reunite, gets box to box as threats. Last time we seen him, 4 different legendary slurp juices, but down to 1 and 2 minis. But luckily for him, he still has that mythic Havoc pump and can take somebody out in 1 shot.
Rex is surviving. And in the meantime, he's gonna have to survive here in that wood. That's practically all he has left. Acorn, in a very similar situation, but working with a lot less in the tank. Just 7 builds remaining, down here on low. Desperately hoping somebody will walk into his sight. You can hear that team close by. Can't necessarily make the play he wants to. And these guys just gonna pulse rifle into boxes. They want to pulse rifle into somebody's face. They're claiming space down below on low. Clicks. Not up above, here in the mid-ground layers, and there's players on their layer. And they might just have to deal with soon. Frets now begins to start to run low on materials and has to take a fight, has to get aggressive and try and make a play, try and make something.
Anything at this point. Pops game time at the perfect time. Might be too early now. 12 zone hasn't begun to move yet as Yamzo and Rise trying to terrorize everybody. Depending on how much damage they have taken to Storm up until this point, they've given themselves 2 different win conditions. Take over the game, go for heal off. Batman, Booga, and Bacon have stabilized their position down on Surge moments ago, forced to use their men miss. But for them, for how long they spent in the zone very, very early on in this game, they have to go ahead and frag out.
And if they want to frag out, they have to drop to low. And if they drop to low, they're going to be in the faces of the Yomzu and Rise. And we know how those guys are feeling. Forced back up. Bacon was waiting. And Bacon is hitting big shots. Polarized gets taken out. And the kinetic blade will move on up and back into the zone. But unfortunately, that will be his demise. Trashy and Pump will begin to fall now as well. It's Trashy who's there. Pump in a tree. Takes down Cease. And he's still going those. Mats will keep him in the game. He can drop down out of that tree in a bit into safety.
Acorn surviving still as a solo, no heals, 19 HP, trying to follow the zone to the last possible moment, at the very minimum, gets himself into the top 4 before going down. Top 3 we go, Rise and Yamzo, game time, splashes, but Quanti has the high ground. Peterbot's there as well, but he's gonna go down. He at least took down Rise, bringing this down to a 1v1 situation, but Quanti, he ran out of heals. He's forced to drop down low. Yamzo having a little pizza party down low towards the low ground, and he celebrates by taking the game.
Yomzo just had way too much in the tank for anybody else to deal with. But if you're Peterbot and Quanti, second place ain't too bad, ain't too shabby. They are playing the games of their lives, but Yomzo and Rise picking up a win, and a big win for their morale, a big win for their confidence going into this major.
Yeah, they're one of those teams to where once their backs are against the wall, they don't have the first 3 games go their way, they usually make a run in that latter half. But this time around, in game number 2, no slow starts for them. They are taking week number 1 by storm.
Look, I talked about how they need to change their style. We know Yomzo likes to be aggressive, likes to be that guy who pops off, doesn't have the ping to do that anymore, right? But they're not struggling. They're here in the major, picking up wins. That's exactly what you like to see from that team.
Yep, with 2 games down and a lot of consistency out of our top teams. Only Zeke, SVG, and Vivid could break it all down.
My goodness, game 2 here from NA, going over to Yamzo and Rise. And this is why we have to take a moment. We have to talk about them, right? They are kind of a big deal when it comes to the NA server and or regions. And of course, they're showing us why. I mean, the amount of heals they had prepared for, like, these guys are just operating on another level right now.
Yeah, they were running through that lobby too with those pulse rifles. They were just ready to go on low ground. They pretty much got that win condition, and like the guys mentioned while they were casting, they're either just going to run through the entire lobby or they're going to be ready for heal off as well.
100%, and I think, you know, we've seen 2 games now, and the narrative for this duo 100% has been low ground. Right? They're claiming so much space down there, and they're doing it so well, doing it together as well. I was watching this play out of Yamzo, and it was crazy because Yamzo was kind of like box fighting right there, and then I saw some shots coming in from the side. I'm like, wait, they're coming from so far away, and it was actually Rise that was all the way over there. So they had so much space claimed on the low ground, able to work with so many angles, and doing it as a duo, not easy to do in the end game. Very, very chaotic down there, but they managed to pull it off.
What is it that these guys are doing that, how are they so many steps ahead, right? I mean, kind of like to your guys' point, they were ready for anything, and right now NA feels a little bit chaotic, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're seeing out of some duos is that, you know, the meta right now, the conversation is like heal off, heal off, heal off. But what we've seen some duos on NA is those old strategies, right? Formulaic, low ground, mid ground, high ground, and it's working.
Yeah, I'm surprised to see low ground work, if I'm going to be honest with you. Because of the kinetic blade, there's that delay after you use the movement. So a lot of players wind up falling all the way down, but it looks like Yamzo Rise, they're just loving that. They're like, give me it all. And then as players fall down, they're picking them up. But another team we have to talk about is Bacon and Batman Booga, because they're sizzling.
You see what he did there, right? Sizzling.
I saw it. I saw it.
Whole season with this guy. Love you, SVG. No, but I mean, yeah, that NA West representation coming through, popping off for sure. We broke it down last game. The Storm Surge strategy being there. The end game mechanics are there. Loving everything that I'm seeing.
And it's been both of them. One game, it was Batman Booga having a little more aggressive play. The other game, it was Bacon. It just seems like these two are very comfortable in these games and clearly saying, I don't care what lobby we're in. this is ours.
I feel like we're seeing so much more like mechanical plays happen on NA.
Yeah, it does feel that way, right? Like another duo, Acorn and Cold, right? Putting in work now, jumping up to 2 placement points, placements rather, jumping up into 3rd. These guys are also popping off.
And of course, there's a title to defend this season for these guys. So, you know, finding themselves in this first weekly finals is big ups to them, but long stretch ahead. And I think that they are proving right now that they can pretty much adapt to any meta, because this one's not an easy one to tackle, but they are making that adjustments and it's working out so far.
And typically what we've seen is Cold is the one doing the solo pop-offs in endgame, but it was Acorn. I saw him as a solo way earlier in the game, and I was like, wait, okay, this is going to be so difficult. And then he wound up being one of the last players as the zones began to close. Just played this perfectly. Didn't really do too much, but at the same time, you don't need to. You just find the right layers, you find the right position, and get the little refreshes that you need.
Yeah, also flexing on everybody, right? Having the axe of champions, pulling that out in the end game, maybe scaring some of his opponents towards the end game there, but no, I mean, great stuff. And again, this is one of those plays that we see, right? Like, he's holding people that are being staggered on the backside of moving zone and taking the fight to them. That is just something that I really feel like we did not see a lot of yesterday on EU. But again, like I mentioned, some of these more formulaic strategies that we have seen develop over time in Fortnite competitive, I feel like we lost some of that during this season when I was watching EU, but I feel like NA is just showcasing it even more, even in this meta.
Yeah, they're just going to say, this is what we're used to, right? Like, why are we going to push this to heal up? Why are we going to let these things happen? And I think that's what happened over in EU, right? People were just saying, you don't want to fight me. Okay, well, then I'm going to just amass my healing off army here of splashes and things, right? And I think I appreciate that a lot about NA. I mean, it's pretty sick.
Oh, yeah. You love to see it. And then, of course, we got to talk about the team in first place, right?
Why not?
They did what we saw all day yesterday. Go all the way up to height, sit up there, hang out, and Peterbot and Quanti, they're doing exactly what they left off in game 1. Falling a little bit short at the end. Quanti was like, all right, I'm going to walk off.
I kept asking you, Vivid, is that high? Are they at max height? Are they almost there? They're almost there.
I was looking at it, I was like, they gotta be close. But no, I mean, again, right? Peterbot just showcasing his mechanics, and you can already see his his loadout going into the end game. He had no heals to really play that heal up, and he was fully aware of that, which is why he's going for so many eliminations. And then there's that leap of faith you were talking about, right? Quanti's like, maybe I can do something. Nah, I couldn't find the player at the end there, but still, I mean, second place on the game, first place on the leaderboard. It's looking good for this duo.
Second is still second, right? You don't need the victory royale all the time, but those placement points, they will very quickly add up. I mean, there's a ton of names here on this list, even looking at someone like Trashy and Pump, right? We talked to Trashy at the beginning of the show, jumping up 43 places up into 7th place. That is what this duo is capable of.
And again, I mean, we saw Pump also alive as a solo. I think that's something that SPG kind of talked about, the solo clutch mentality of Pump, his capability to pull those out. Second to none.
No, and he just shows that every single game. Most of the time, they're gliding through endgame as a duo, and then, you know, bad stuff happens. It's not always going to be perfect. And then Pump's like, I got you, bro. Let me get a few more. And Miro and Bugha, that's how they won an FNCS, by doing that.
Man, this has been so much fun, but we do have more games ready to go for us. 4 more games on NA. What more could you ask for? Well, I'll tell you what you could ask for. It's Jacob and Levin. Oh, let's go over to them.
Thank you very much, Zeke. We are here for game number 3. The first 2 games definitely showed us that the top NA players, the likes of the former champions, Acorn and Cole, the likes of Yomzo and Rise, Peterbot and Quanti, and new duo in this stage are here to perform, here to show up, here to show us what they can do.
Yeah, and I think today is what you're seeing is the result of 2 regions combining into one, the clashing play styles going at it right before our very eyes. And that's what I'm saying. It's going to be a real wake-up call for some of these players in general, once they realize that playstyle isn't going to work in this new era of Fortnite when it comes to NA, but a different bus path this time around, which means a different off-spawn fight right out of the gates and more time to work with for some of our teams. One of them is going to be Day and Shore, but uncontested towards Breakwater Bay, so all they're really going to gain out of this is just more time to loot up and set their foot on the road.
Nobody at Breakwater Bay to fight them off spawn. We will see off spawn fights here between Batman, Bugha, Bacon. Picking up the weapon as well, and so no chance for you. Edward did get a chance to pick up a gun, but unfortunately, he has no teammate. Quanti and Peterable in the feed go down.
Ooh.
Oh dear, that's the fight over at South Slappy, and that's the fight they've lost.
Not good, but at the same time, a first place to second place. At least they built themselves a little bit of a cushion here in our weekly finals. As Bacon and Batman Booga, they already got one. They go right back on up, take the high ground, and take down Edward. And that's going to be a huge start for them, because you saw how far they were able to push it in that last game while staying in Storm for the first couple of zones. This time around, they gave themselves so much time to work with. As we tune in to Paper and Shadow, the Death and Tahi fight for Shattered Slabs. Looks like a trade right out of the gates between the two. Which really leaves Paper on the back foot, but Paper and Shadow have some of the most eliminations through that last round, so he's prepared and ready to fight at a moment's notice. Ooh. Say, or keep it simple. Go for the revive. Oh, gets denied the piece control. That's a great opportunity for Death to try to go ahead and break into the box. The relentless pressure coming through, which means Shadow's going to go down. And honestly, that's a win right now. That's a win, and that's why you see him disengaging. He got the points. He left him into a 1v1. You got to imagine he possibly already has the reboot card as well, so he's just trying to put himself into a better spot instead of getting greedy.
And this is a replay of our first place team being taken out here at their POY. Gibot and Quanti, unfortunate. Didn't quite land on that floor spawn. And there was an SMG waiting there to take them out. Tahi here. He's gonna go down at the hands of Paper.
Just unfortunate, because they don't even really get to mess around with the Shattered Slabs vault as another team. That's Liam, that's Jitter. Begin to kind of push in and push Paper out. It might have been a different story if Paper still had his teammate by his side. They'd at least be able to defend it as a duo, but the more important thing to him is just getting his teammate back in and having a second chance. And if he does so rather quickly, Levin, they can kind of loot up whatever they can, the scraps over on whatever is the north of Shattered Slabs, and try to kind of turn around and fight for that vault once they feel like they have the loot and the confidence to do so.
Quite a few times today we've seen Jamper's name in the feed relatively early on. This time round, we're gonna get to see what exactly they're cooking up off spawn.
I like Cam and Jamper.
Oh dear.
Paper
led to them being taken out at times, right? Off spawn here up against Hound and Aiden. Both players ramping up, pushing over towards each other, but nobody engaging in the fight.
Hound and Aiden, another team from the former NA West region. Really proud to see how they're going to perform in this game, as Paper looks like he got Shadow back up, but then Shadow goes right back on down as they try to return back on over to Shattered Slabs. But at the same time, Jitter probably chased them down as soon as they hear the reboot pop off. Paper just taking so much damage trying to run. Jitter spots him out on the other side, quickly takes him down. And they have the best possible chances to get the vault here towards Shattered Slabs. But as I say that, another team in the distance beginning to put down shots, which means they're going to have to think. They're going to have to guess, is it safe enough? Is somebody looming around the corner? What's the plan here for Jitter and Liam? Interesting. Ninjutsu crossing. A lot of kinetic blades naturally spawn on this side of the map, particularly in that big building across towards Kenjutsu building. We've seen a couple of our players over on EU land here, fight it out. Sometimes they split it, but at the end of the day, they were able to grab some mobility for their game. This Polarized and Pen, they have a little bit of elevation difference against Swirl and Aoxy. But you can see they're just biding their time. NPen just spotting out the information. Polaroid just trying to grab another angle, continuing to loot up before NPen just disengages altogether.
Yeah, and ultimately this is one of those fights that will just be a bit slower in the pace. Clicks and Soup landing towards that racetrack, not contested, unfortunately for them. Clicks likes to base up here. We've seen many different teams on many different regions play this spot and look to try and trade surge with the teams over towards that mega city area. Centered staying by the racetrack and just farming up all them resources that Clicks put into that base.
Both of them just taking a ton of damage. Defiable doing a good job of trying to cover up Kinzo as they get that slurp truck, allowing them to slave the heals for as long as possible. And you can see the leaderboard. No Quanti, no Peterbot, no Parks, Mars, no Yagvir, no Gold in terms of elimination. So a lot of our heavy hitters in this lobby are already down and out. The only one you really have to worry about is, of course, Acorn and Cold. Even though they don't have a ton of eliminations to this point, you know their pop-off potential. But Batman, Booga, and Bacon as well. With the first place, 18 eliminations so far on that leaderboard.
Yeah, these guys have been aggressive.
Yeah.
They've been the ones taking fights where necessary. And they've been winning them. They've been winning them.
Kind of almost doubling up their points game after game throughout the first two. Jump on board, the replay of D-Roller just causes so much havoc before he finally gets in and hits him with the one tap. That's just crazy if you don't really see that one coming. And it's crazy if you see it coming as well.
Yeah, I don't know who I'd rather want to be, right? The people that see it coming or the people that don't see it? I think I'd rather just not see it coming.
At least you have an excuse.
Yeah. I'd rather not see it coming. Send me back to the lobby.
Just get it over with. Ritual and TK. You can see them, they're kind of splitting up here. TK beginning or continuing to farm up. Find loot, find upgrades, because even if they're stacked for now, it's always worth to look around for an upgrade as it continues to put pressure onto Trashy. Taking down the shields. And you can see they're not really closing the distance. They don't feel confident enough just yet, but as I say that, somebody pushes up to Trashy right away. That was Ritual trying to be the tip of the spear thanks to the damage that TK just put on. And they're still chasing him down. They don't want to let that damage go to waste. Where is Pump? He needs to be able to help out Trashy in this situation. But as I say that, in the minimap, he's trying to close out the distance, trying to put down suppressed fire, but it's not going to be enough. Ritual was just hot on his heels, didn't let him escape.
Ritual now. Just gonna pick that one up.
I like that, though. I like that. The reason why he picked him up right there is so that TK can aim for the headshot, get max damage for Surge. Wow. The one side. You can hide every side, but the one that's open, they're going to find it. Go square. A lot of teams just boxing up, trying to build towers in the skies. You see all around. Two in the distance, just right in front of D-Roller. Just at the edge of zone as well. They're kind of hoping it pulls their way, but if the trend does continue, we'll begin to continue to move towards the east side of the map, kind of where Rise and Yamzo have a little bit of advantage, where a lot of teams are going to have to rotate in their direction if that comes to fruition. Ouch.
They will have some spare shields though, and so it won't be too big of a loss there for Rise.
Two-gun threats, though, just outside of Genjutsu Crossing. On the island, luckily for them, though, they do have the kinetic blade to get up and out at a moment's notice without any mobility. I would question a spot like this. Just looking at their inventory, they should be A-okay in this position as they just try to get Surge, hold players out, just like Clicks and Soup have been doing almost all game long. And look at their loot. Got to be some of the prettiest loot that we've seen in the lobby for now, and kind of separated against everybody else. Are they continuing to scavenge? What is going on with Clicks and Soup? This is just absolutely insane how they're preparing the entirety of the game. Assault and Trollings end up in another fight here against Defiable and Kinzo. The Kinzo lacking some HP, trying to use what he can for the legendary Slurp Juice to try to get himself up to shape to what he thinks is a fight that's coming around the corner.
Both teams there creating space and looking for the right angles, holding them some right hand peaks. Good Firewood opening up that window. Not a conventional edit in that situation, but effective one nonetheless. And that was definitely unconventional. But he is hitting the shots.
I'm going to see this in my next arena game, and I'm going to be surprised by it. But I like how it's kind of slowing down just a little bit. They're realizing their win conditions. They're realizing they cannot take too much damage. But, Levin, I asked a question early on. What is Clix and Soup doing over towards the racetrack? Out comes Taco out of nowhere to give me the answer.
Of course, Jacob, and teamwork makes the dream work is really just the ultimate solution here. Soup actually taking the time to prioritize getting all the resources necessary, farming out materials, builds, but dropping off all of those heals as well for Click so that he can focus entirely on just taking shots into Mega City, keeping their surge tags up and heavy. That way, if they do need to rotate sometime soon, they've got it all locked down.
Okay, just writing those notes down. Playing their roles perfectly. They kind of build that monument in the sky, and I was wondering where they're going to kind of refresh that metal. Well, it was Soup who went back down, not only to refarm a lot of those resources, but continue to scavenge the loot. That's going to allow them to take tags. Will it pay off for them in terms of Storm Surge? We're going to have to continue watching this game to find out. But for NPen and Polarize, their worry isn't Storm Surge, it's Swirl and Aoxy trying to get into their box with the ODM gear. He gets denied his first try, and that's why you see him try to back on up. Took a little bit too much damage.
Of course, she does have shields, right? Of course, they just open up this cache, and so there's some spare shields, spare bigs there that they'll use to get themselves back up. Shouldn't be too much of a worry in that sense. Hammer, Booger, and Bacon. Based up here towards the west of Mega City, on one of the best hills you can be on, to be fair. All of the hills in this area are quite good in terms of the lines of sight they give you and all the sort of players coming in and around from the Steamy Springs area, which you can see they're taking shots over towards. Ritual and TK here on the dead side of the zone. About 500 above, and so they can spend the time to farm up. These guys are looking set up really nice heading into endgame.
Looking nice indeed. They got their damage, they got their elims, they got their loot. They just need to continue to play and how they practice up until this point. As D-Roller and Jackson just trying to take control of the pieces that are close by. They know another team is just on that other side, not too far away, so they don't want to get surprised by any means. They're 686 above the damage threshold. No real reason to peek in this situation as WTJ and Matt find Ledesma slipping, taking him out all together, getting all the loot that they can, and honestly, that's going to be a huge upgrade in their loadout. Wow.
Yeah, playing the angles right. Getting the shots to connect with them as well. Cam and Jampa, they're trying to get in there now. They're trying to insert themselves into the equation, and they wait, they can connect. Nice little window from Jampa. That'll be one. Onto Matt.
No actual heals coming out of that one. Just kind of Matt's, not too many resources they're going to be able to get. Just Cooper and Emerald Road King just trying to take whatever's left in terms of scraps out of Slappy Shores. Max out their materials. Seeing 500 metal, 500 brick for Cooper. 6 splashes, 2 legendary slurp juices as well. They have a clear-cut win condition. But at the same time, the 2 games have not let it go through.
Yeah, and they have a clear path to get to zone. They can white line in. There's not going to be anybody around them to sort of really look and cause them issues as they rotate. And they can probably actually get relatively deep in terms of their position in the zone as well. Everybody right now, with the zone being so central, just sort of on those different outskirts. Not many players playing center zone. Dragon in the leash. Look at these shots from Dragon. Oh my goodness.
Vamos, Dragon. Let's go. At least Dragon getting warmed up. Better late than never. 48 points. At least grabbing something for their efforts throughout the first 2 games. In a pop-off moment. Maybe a top 10 could be in contention. You can see how they got that elimination. Quick thinking, and you're really seeing they're able to grab these pieces, get them under control, and quickly move in and out. Due to the combined region, they're really taking advantage of every opportunity they were given this season.
Boxed up like a fish. Trashy and Pump, after making an ascent towards the top 10 of the standings, they're going to continue to try and add to that point tally. Of course, first place team is down, and so the opportunity to catch up is certainly there. They do need to do a surge, though. Can't afford to be down below for too long. M-Pen and Polarized. Gonna rotate through Mega City, actually. Try to pop out off the right side. You see them just cutting across diagonally through this POI. And rightfully so, there were a bunch of teams just to the left there, and so if they tried to get out that way, it would have been very, very tough to do that. So tanking a bit of storm damage just to get into the safer spot of the zone.
Instead of popping any sort of shield, they're immediately still trying to go in. I don't know if they saw that Pump was weak or just simply trying to take advantage of their situation. Pump goes down. That's TK who's able to take him down. Comes at a cost, though. Down goes DeQuinted as well. Trashy and Pump get cleaned up overall, but each one of these duos getting a share of that pie. DeQuinted knocked all together, and that's why you see Sinento just trying to back himself into a corner, but shots coming in from a whole nother direction. His position's going to be given away by trying to play defensive. Ritual gets denied, but as they go into another box, Ritual just lands the perfect shot to take him down, bringing their total to 4 eliminations and over 700 above the damage threshold.
Yeah, so I liked how they were looking. And hopefully now, taking a look at their inventories alone, you can start to understand why these guys are stacked to the brim. Well deserved. Look at some of these shots from Ritual. Hitting hard today. And unfortunately, Trashy wasn't happy about going down there, and understandably, they were making such a nice climb up the standings, and their progress is currently put to a halt. Rising and Yomzo, a really nice position here on the north side of the zone. They were able to get in ahead of the rest of these teams. You see all these teams are looking back at, they're the ones that have to get into zone, and they can just sort of stop them, or delay them at least. Maybe pick up an limb along the way. The damage alone would be enough to satisfy their needs.
It's Cold and Acorn haven't gotten ramped up to what we've seen in our last Major 1 finals for FNCS NA side of things. But they're one of the teams throughout the last 3 weeks of FNCS Major 1. They didn't necessarily put it all on the line. They had a struggle in week number 1 and picked up the pace throughout those last 2 weeks. You got to imagine a team like this with all the experience in the world can pop off at a moment's notice, so it's not somebody you want to sleep on. As we jump on board Bacon, he's by himself. Batman Booga got knocked and taken out just moments ago. So with no heals and no teammate, Bacon definitely does have his work cut out for him to keep that consistency intact. 116 points. They're definitely one of the teams to watch out for. Four points for Van Jock and Zukis, which is actually pretty surprising with the amount of damage they're putting game after game onto some of these teams. Really causing a ruckus, just really not getting the credit for it as Zuki is late to rotate. Looks like Bacon was trying to land a cheeky shot as he rotated by himself, so he's gonna have to watch out as Polaroids ends the run for Jock. We saw him and Guam moments ago looking healthy, but they get aggressed on by both N-Pen and Polaroids. And that's what you really have to watch out for. Everything can be looking fine. One moment, you make the wrong move. Next thing you know, you're back to the lobby.
Yeah, now they can just sit there and hold window. All he has is build wood to build in, sorry. Tragic since he's making their way down from the Bastion here over towards this Mega City area and crossing the river unscathed and unfazed. Gonna use that metal now to ensure their safety as they get on in. Sort of stuck down, that's a very uncomfortable layup. Need to be very careful as there are players and they're finally starting to move on up. They have to continue to move in. They're not even safe where they were. Barely on the side of this hill in safety. And players know that, so they're capitalizing. They're getting sprayed.
Great job by Cease, though, quickly firing down from above to at least alleviate some of that pressure. And I like the way he's saving those chug splashes, saving that legendary slurp juice. That's a clear win condition if it comes down to it. Or at least it's going to allow you to stagger yourself backside of zone once we get into the next couple as Soup and Clicks still alive. I would say looking healthy, but Clix is basically taking that sacrifice, not regenerating the shield, so that way they have more heal-off potential towards the end of this game. 241 above the damage threshold. They don't need to peek. They just need to stay alive, but they just become the focus of the lobby. Super Clix trying to play defensive, but the shots are going ahead and burning through those builds, doing so much damage, forcing the first of 2 legendary slurp juices out of Soup.
Yeah, that's not ideal, but it's much better than just being taken out completely. You see some of their top competitors in this lobby topping up ahead of them. Nakorn and Colds. These guys all with the same objective, just to try to get to safety, get some room to breathe. Tragics and Sisu struggle to make their way into zone. Will barely get out of the sights of Rokane and Vert, who are eagerly looking for maybe a chance to get a refresh. Yeah. Some mats they can.
Big find. They're able to get the Elim onto Cam, and they're due, and with no knock, you already know Jamper's out. Back to the lobby already. More loot for them. Look at their mats. They don't have much distance to cover before they're in the next zone. They're just waiting the 19 seconds out for it to begin to move. Just a couple kinetic blade charges, and they'll find themselves in such a great position. The only worry for me with those charges as they rotate is the elevation. They got to get the spot that is not on the lowest of grounds.
Comes to that spray and trying to make things uncomfortable for Commandment down below. But now gonna have to focus on zone. You can see Hamsu scouting. There is a team right above them, and so that's Clix. Can't go out that way. They're gonna have to top out a bit just to create that bit of space, that bit of distance. Fretz is gonna get the revive onto Buga here. Ooh, was worried about this team coming through. And so unfortunately has to put an end to it, and they'll just put an end to him. It's Mpen who walks into that box.
TK gets the credit for the other one, but the damage is done. Emerald Road King does go down. Cooper's gonna be left by himself. 3 splashes, try to use the ODM gear, but gets tagged up, falls to the low ground, but catches himself at the last possible moment. Legendary Slurp Juice gonna be used, but when we look at the high ground, that's Poyo, that's Keyboard, and almost gives you a glimmer of what Bugha saw in Poyo. He just live up to that hype, live up to that name.
So good being up on height at this stage, so you have to do something with it. We'll see if he can live up to that hype. Unfortunately for Yomzo, Rise has fallen, and he's in the back of the zone with many, many eyes watching. That kinetic blade is gonna have to come through. Their charges are there to be used. And he'll use 2 just to get into a nice spot on the zone on the left side here. Not much congestion, so a bit of breathing room for Yomzo as a solo. Mpen doing very similar, moving himself to almost that same side. Cease and Tragic, so they're not solos, they're playing together, and they need to land together, because if not, they might have players landing in their box.
They're just playing bumper blades right there in the sky, and Ritual is the one that's going to go down for it all. 4 eliminations so far. TK doing what he can to try to play hero, but realizing when enough is enough, he has to abandon Ritual, but he's not going too far off, just in case he's able to get it. But another team coming in from a whole nother angle, leaving TK with no choice but to disengage and play the rest of this one out by himself.
And look what he's found. He's found a bunch of chug splashes.
Wow.
He's going to sit there and heal off with. And even if it's not going to win him the game, it will win him some extra placement points, and that's all that matters. Clix and Soup, though. Another game here where they're just on mid-ground, and they are vibing, looking for an opportunity for a refresh, and looking to try and maybe find some room ahead of the zone. Yeah, don't want to be in the middle back. Moving now towards the front.
Is anybody going to look up? They're 1 layer thin. As I say that they do, Poyo and Keyboard, though, they're going to be able to catch themselves with a Kinetic Blade. You can see Keyboard going deep into zone, making sure they maintain the high ground, which is going to be important as Clix, Soup, still on the hunt. They know players are nearby, and they're closing in on that distance, but they're making sure they stay in that mid layer. If you drop ultimate low, there's going to be so many teams down there causing some chaos for your game.
These guys have played their match brilliantly up to this point, but they are starting to run low on mats. And so it's going to be a matter of hitting some shots, but Clix isn't ready. And so that just leaves Soup with just the 1 build remaining. Scratch that, no builds remaining. He has to connect, and connect he will, but it's not enough for an elim. Now just patiently waiting, but the time is ticking. You can't keep sitting in zone. You have to run in, you have to connect. How's he not gone down? Yeah, what a shot! But before going down, Mpendo down beneath is alive. and is using the chug splashes to stay in the zone here.
Yeah, he's doing all he can to try to get as many points. Tragic's doing the same thing, but him and Cease are still alive as a solo. 3 splashes left as well. Cease goes down. Shots coming in from Polo, but it's not enough. He gets taken down by somebody else still left in this game. This is a 3-player zone heal off here towards the end of this game. NPen popping a legendary slurp juice. Pizza is being eaten. Slap juice is being drinking. 1v1 situation. Who has the heals as NPen uses his last? Thankfully, he has the slurp juice still ticking, but he goes down altogether. Acorn, FNCS Major 1 champion, takes the game.
Game after game, we're seeing the biggest and the best names in North America showing up and showing out. Acorn and Cold pick up that game. The pizza was just too much to handle for the rest of the lobby. And a really nice win for a team that has been ever present in all of these different end games with some of their top competitors getting taken down early. They came into that game in 3rd place, and that certainly will move them much, much higher. Potentially will put them in 1st place as well. Really nicely done with a bunch of eliminations as well.
Doing what they do best overall. Eliminations, endgame fiasco, causing destruction, and what a beauty to see as well. It's Acorn who actually clutches up and brings home the points.
Hey, look, a really nice game for them. But look, we got to count up all the stats, count up all the numbers, see who does currently sit in that 1st place spot, and who better to do that than Zeke and the analysts.
Leave it to someone like Acorn and Cold, who've already qualified. They're already through. They just say, let's play spoiler. Let's just go in here. Hey, let's just get another victory royale. Casual. No big deal.
And again, listen, they're playing consistently through every single game. No surprise, they're going to be finding a victory royale on the day. And I feel like every single game is going a little bit later and later into that heal. So maybe some adaptations being made by some of our players. But nonetheless, Acorn and Cold coming out on top.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see because, like we mentioned last time, Cold's normally the clutcher, but when we have a change in meta, Acorn's like, dude, I'm ready. This is my moment now. And we saw at that last moment, instead of deciding, okay, I'm going to take that fight against NPen in the final moment, it's like, dude, I'm out healing you. Get out of here. I know I got this.
I mean, there you see it right there as well. Acorn kind of fending off anybody that was backing up to his walls. Just knows that he has to just do a little bit of damage, make sure he finds that siphon as well, helping him in that heal-off aspect. Such a smart player.
A lot of very, like, small things, right, that will lend itself to them winning. I like what you're talking about, that control, just to say, what are these little things? A lot of people would panic in that situation. Yeah. Not these guys, though.
Nah. No need to take some of those 50-50 Havoc pump shotgun fights, right? Just get that tag. You have the builds. Play a little defensively after you hit that shot and going solid.
Yeah, and the little things matter, too, when it comes down to it, of when are you popping those chug splashes?
Yeah.
When are you popping those heals? That way you're maximizing that time you're able to stay alive.
And let's see how this translates to our standings currently. As now, Acorn, Cold, they jump up. They say, you know what? This 3rd place, not good enough. Let's just go ahead and take over the 1st place spot. They push down Peterbot and Quanti, and even Iamzo and Rise, right? These top 3 are shifting, and I believe it was Iamzo and Rise that went down early that last game.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, also, we saw Peterbot and Quanti go down in the early game, right? So that's why this lead was able to be formed. But all those teams kind of sneaking into this top 10 right now, Cease and Tragics. And that late game right there, we saw some rotations, some very tough rotations being made from Cease and Tragics on foot, actually. Not something that we see a lot this season, just simply because of those kinetic blades. But Cease has the experience. He's made so many rotations on foot and got his duo into the end game.
And out of everyone in this previous round, they were one of the few teams that won 2 matches in the previous round.
Okay.
Not many teams did, so they clearly are understanding how to play these new zones, adapting quickly. And I mean, Cease been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
Pairing up with Tragics seems to be working perfectly.
It's crazy, right? Sticking with the best throughout season after season after season. Man, shout out to Cease.
Yeah, I mean, he has talked about it in like several of the interviews we've done with him that though he's been around for a long time, he wants to prove that he's still very much one of the best. And there you go. That's good proof in itself. We can turn our attention back to the standings. I mean, jumping on 5th place, NPen and Polarized. Once again, we're seeing these big shifts right in their leaderboards and in these standings. I mean, it just takes one good game and suddenly you can be back in the race.
Yeah, it's funny because we were just talking. NPen and Polarized are like in zone every single time. And we were just sitting there like, why do they keep sitting in Storm? But apparently it doesn't matter, Vivid.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen a lot of actually some of these NA teams hang out in the zone a very long time. storm sickness being a thing. I'm surprised it's working for some of these duos. They're making it work, though.
Yeah. All right. Well, guess what? We have a very special little interview lined up for y'all. Let's come on up this way. It is none other than Zemi. Hello, my friend. How are you doing?
Hello, hello. I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Oh, man, dude, we're vibing. FNCS is absolutely wild. How are you enjoying all the action in the now combined NA?
I love it. I love it. It's great to see all the top talents from all the regions coming together, and I just think overall it makes the competition a lot better.
So I got a question. I know you're great at winning zero build tournaments, but are we going to be seeing you compete in an FNCS sometime soon?
Maybe. I mean, maybe I may have played week 1, a couple days ago, and you may see me coming in the next 2 weeks, but that's all I'm going to say.
Okay, so a little bit of experience there. You found out maybe like how difficult some of these lobbies are. How do you think it overall compares to zero build when it comes down to the competitive aspect of each of them?
Very different. I mean, there's some things that go hand in hand, for example, positioning and stuff, which is where I can kind of excel at, and even builds, but very different, especially endgame.
How do you find yourself in those endgame moments? Like, what do you do to focus? Because I feel like for me, sometimes those final moments, I'm just all over the place.
I'm going to be honest with you. I'm in the same boat as you. I'm all over the place. A couple days ago when I played, first game I was lost. I didn't know what's happening.
Oh, that's all right, man. The zero build goat, right? Sometimes some of these other game modes, they're just so hard. I'm getting old myself. These building stuff, it's really, really hard for me too.
I feel you, man. Same here.
Well, hey, thank you so much for your time. Where can the fans find you?
You guys can find me every day on Twitch at Zemi or on Twitter at Zemi.
Hey, well, we hope to see you soon in the FNCS. Maybe. Fingers crossed. But thank you so much for your time, and we'll catch you later.
Later, guys.
There you go. Love just having those little opportunities, right? Talk with members of the community, see their thoughts, get their insight. It turns out I'm not the only one that's all over the place in those final few moments of the game. But you know a lot about that with experience from my end.
Yes, Zeke is definitely not good throughout the early game, mid game, or the end game. So if we ever play, usually he's getting carried. But if you like those zero build competitions, definitely check out Zemi. Absolutely fantastic at popping off in them.
Live. Just put Zeke on blast right there.
Had to do it.
Oof.
We're gonna have words after this. Guess what? Game is ready to go, and so is Vivid. So we're gonna go and have a talk. You guys enjoy this game. This is the FNCS.
Game number 4 of the FNCS is upon us. And if the remainder of the games today are going to be anything like what we have seen, and I can assure you we have a lot of heel-off coming off, because game by game, Jacob, it seems like we're seeing the heel-off plays come into fruition.
Yeah, a lot of these players are realizing what the meta actually is right now with the combined regions coming into one. It's bound to happen, the mixed play style, but now they're finally letting the dust settle in the second half of the day.
Yeah, I think as we head into the back end of the competition, some of the teams at the top will have to feel that pressure. I think we've seen it so many times for all different competitions, all different FNCSs. Now, even if you do start well, it doesn't guarantee you finish well. You have to continue that consistency, and if there's ever been a meta that's hard to be consistent in, you would probably say it's this one. In any case, that is what differentiates the best of the best. And this is a team who unfortunately did not grace us with much of their presence in Game 3, Peterbot and Quanti. When the zone was west to east, they had their fair share of struggles. This time round, though, a different bus path and a different chance of life, and one that, unfortunately, isn't going to be too good for them either.
Quanti going for a little cheeky play. That's something he's going to look back at the VODs and kind of regret it. Maybe the timing just wasn't there. Another shot going to be missed by Peterbot, something you don't necessarily see every day. He's going to try to take the grind rails on out, and he gets pretty far before he gets taken out by both Lawrence and Seek. Back-to-back games off spawn where Peterbot and Quanti get taken down by Lawrence and Seek.
That is rough. Very, very rough. To start the day so hot, first place and second place, and then to lose 2 games of spawn. That is something to certainly ponder on.
6 points. Difference between them and the Yamzo and Rise. Pump and Trashy trying to have a much better time this go around, and they do. Another off-spawn exchange is going to be won by the duo, but that's nothing different than what we've been seeing so far. For them, it's the mid game. It's going into the end game where they found their struggles in the last couple of games. As we check how they even got into the position to win off spawn. They were battling from low to high ground, but Blue just ends up into the box by himself and kind of leaves a quick 1v2 for Trashy and Pump just to really take advantage of.
If you're Acorn and Colds, you'll be very, very happy that that second place team has fallen. And you'll be hoping that the rest will happen for the rest of the top 5 as well. Give them a chance to increase that lead. And like Zeke was alluding to, these guys have already qualified for the Global Championships. We will see them there towards the end of the year. So anything they do in the major is just all practice, all for fun, really. Just showing off what they can do.
It's all about the money for them. It's all about the money and just proving their dominance over the course of the year. Because one thing I don't even say I think, one thing no team has ever done is win every major in the year.
Yeah, that'd be kind of ridiculous. Right?
It would, but hey, they already booked their spot in the Global Championship. They already won FNCS Major 1. That's really all they have to fight for, that and the money.
Look, we are only 4 games into FNCS Major 2. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves talking about winning every major. But if there was ever going to be a team to do it on this region, you'd probably put their names into that hat and be at the top of the very list. Skittles and Aviv over towards the north side of Brutal Bastion. Skittles just based up here, or sitting on top of this mountain, on top of this hill. Problem is, there's not really ever going to be many players rotating in around this area. 1 or 2 teams at the most, and so you have to maximize what you get from them. Back over towards Snappy. Hide and seek, and Lawrence still causing issues here.
Wow, that's Ryzen. He's taking so much damage trying to escape. Yamzo nowhere to be found for now as they continue to backtrack. Zeke took a lot of damage, but instead of popping that big pot, he's returning towards South Slappy Shores to try to get any of those slap barrels that are left nearby, scavenge any bit of loot. You can see him pushing up, checking if the slurp truck is there. He's doing everything in his power to try to conserve as much of the resources as possible. Just waiting for him to build that tower in the sky. It's like clockwork with them, especially depending on where the zone goes. And there it goes as the building does begin. Pamsu and Fatch over towards Frenzy Fields. You see them kind of loot up. They got their capture point. Checking out the augments as well. 117 effective shield and HP. He too, he's just trying to scavenge. He's just trying to be resourceful with the heals that he has and save as much of the important ones to the end of the game. You can see there's not much for them to scavenge. They'll continue to kind of move right through. But while Pamso is doing all the searching, you can see Fatch kind of boxed up near that barn and just trying to put down shots. Somebody has to be going for Surge early on in this game. Otherwise, you're going to be fighting for it almost all game long, trying to play catch up to a lot of these teams. As Booga and Threats, they captured their point as well. Everybody taking advantage of a lot of the nuances of this meta. The Skittles and Aviv were once at the tower above. Now they've returned towards Brutal Bastion. And that's the thing. They're probably just scouting for information, waiting for the vault to become usable.
Yeah, they're going to block this off as best as they can, but that's not going to stop the Rito and Ledesma from forcing their way on in. You see how aggressive they are. So relentless in their approach to just try push through and claim the vault. But again, Skittles and Aviv just going to back off there for a moment. Create some space, create some distance. Oh, what's happening with your boys here, Jacob? Batman Booga, unfortunately, doesn't have Bacon with him. But again, in the storm fighting, which is something we've seen quite a bit of today.
Yeah, and he's kind of running away from the reboot, so Shadow's going to be able to get that one off. Does he have The reboot card of Bacon is going to be the big question, but he has another med kit. So he could, in theory, stay in the zone that much longer as he's trying to put down shots. 2 of them are going to land instantly, 3 for 3. And that's actually Paper in the distance, along with Shadow. They've traveled all the way from the Shadow slab, pushed down yet again. Gotta imagine it was Death and Tahi going to be the victor on that side of the map, and Paper just gets taken out as quick as they get rebooted. He falls again.
Yeah, that's easy work for Batman Booga. It's like he's playing a name trainer. Oh, now over to actual Booga.
What? I was about to say, which one's the real one?
I think we all know who the real one is. No questions about that. But Batman Booga is Batman Booga, and Booga is Booga, you know? They share the Booga in name, but they're their own people, you know?
Exactly. It started off as a little meme for himself, but as he made a name for himself, he realized it's too late. I can't change it anymore. I'm Batman Booga now, and it's here to stay. It's like Booga and Threats. Throughout the last couple of years, really making a name for themselves, household names on the region of North America overall, Polarized and Pen. You see they've got a ton of loot up for grabs, trying to spot out that player that's trying to escape, lived to fight another day, but for them, you can see them instantly trying to cover the distance, go outside of the zone, and not take too much damage, and they get stopped short and gate kept.
Polarized here, in the midst of a fight, and one that will do well to win. I actually saw in the feed Poyo picking up threats, which is hilarious, right? Because Poyo is the player Booga was playing with beforehand, and he stops playing with him to play with threats. So Poyo just getting some revenge out there. You're not better than me. Anything you can do, I can do better.
And that's just familiarity, because when they first signed a team together, everybody was talking about how skilled Poyo actually is. He was consistent one of the last times I've seen him on NA West, so he's definitely kind of earned the opportunity, even if it was for a day or two. Team was one of the greats, as Edward lost his teammate. You see him trying to scavenge around over leftover loot, get the reboot card, anything that he can at this stage in the game, because you're fighting in the last half to try to finish strong. I'm gonna go for the reboot this deep in the zone, though. We already see what happened with Paper. When he got rebooted, Batman Booga took him down, and you can see him really second guessing. He's spotting that team at the distance. He said, nope, nope, not here. Try somewhere else.
Rodium Gill moves them across rather swiftly.
Taking his time, though. Not really taking his time. It's taking some time, I should say. But as you look at that, Yamzo, a solo. Wondering what happened between these two, Yamzo and Rise. Well, we enter in a new analyst to the mid-game. SBG, what happened to Rise?
So we have a little two-piece for you. We see Rise go down. That's why Yamzo was going back to get that reboot card. But not only that, these players circle the down body, pick him up, and then try and maximize that damage onto the body for Storm Surge, making sure they get as much damage as possible.
Something we used to see a lot back when sniper rifles were in the game. People wanted to get that max damage headshot with the snipers. So they always look to do that. Extra damage for Surge can go a long way.
Ouch.
Fortunately, Pamsa won't be going a long way in this game. GPs takes him out.
Freshly rebooted at that. And really nothing for your efforts after that reboot other than points. There's Elise Dragon versus Day and Shore. I had high hopes for Day and Shore, but Elise and Dragon are proven to be a formidable duo in this FNCS. Trying to take the better ping buff and run with it as they take down one of the hottest teams through round number 2. Really stopping them short overall to get their second elim of the game.
Yeah, nothing quite being able to work out there for Shore and Day. The Legion Dragon, we've seen them hitting really big shots and really clean shots all throughout today's games. Piecing people up, putting them down.
Next rotation, just trying to farm up as much as possible. Any little bit extra, even if it's about 300 missing brick between the 3 different types total. As you can see, Clicks and Soup are one of the just 2 teams that place top 10 in every single game on the day. You're going to imagine landing center map, being able to kind of build that tower in the sky, get Storm Surge, all while Soup is just kind of gathering the resources. You can see the switch up. Click said it himself. He's going back to doing what he does best, and that's fragging out. And with one of the best IGLs in the game in Soup, hey, this is a team that I'm going to be loving to watch this season. Interesting decision, though. Yamzo not attempting the reboot onto Rise. Maybe he's waiting for it late in the game as a lot of teams just kind of move past him. Deoxy and Swirl up in another battle, but all they had to do was just wait it out. Player went down to the zone. You can see them too, just like some of the other teams throughout the day, popping game time rather early than we've seen their EU counterparts do yesterday.
What do we have here? A reboot came through. Booga was able to pick threats up, and you can see them coming out from deep in the zone. And in terms of what they're working with now, a refresh will be more than just needed. It will be quite literally the key to any sort of meaningful game happening from here on out. The team was so low, loot not looking the best. And I'll be surprised if their surge situation is much better for that as well. Hopefully it is, because if not, then this really is looking like a dire situation for them.
But for Aviv and Skittles, you can already see, judged by the loadout, from the Vault and Brutal Bastion, all the way to Rift Island in the sky, they went as many of these mythics as they can put in one loadout as they can, but it's going to be Nick, who's just high above the rest on top of the building, and even more so as he built himself a nice platform to try to look down on everybody else while his teammate is doing his best to kind of contest that capture point. Nick is just continuously being proactive, looking for Surge, but at the same time, him and Demonic separated like this against Aviv and Skittles. All they need to do is realize he's a solo, try to break into the box, and try to take him down one at a time. Uh-oh.
This is trouble. Nick not quite wanting to let them playing this for free.
I like that. He dropped down low, allowing for his teammates to kind of get out altogether. That was Demonix, but you see him kind of in the distance. He's actually just going to disengage altogether. It's just not worth their time. They took too much damage. They gave up their position. Instead of fighting from the back foot, they're just trying to position themselves for a better spot later in this same game. And for our last game's winners, game number 3, the last one before the half, Acorn and Cole yet again. Just outside of zone, but not really have much worry about. Ooh, okay, this is what I was waiting to see.
Rise being rebooted now. Over here towards the racetrack. The very area where he sort of went down in the first place, and so he'll be able to go back to his old loot actually and pick up his old loadout, if that's what he wants to do. Sitting in a bush.
Yamza probably has all those heals ready for them as well, knowing he had to go deep in his zone just to make this chance a possibility. So many teams on this side of the map. But unsurprisingly enough, almost 600 above the damage threshold. So much experience on one team as Matt, WTJR begin to kind of rotate into the zone. They get just outside, no longer taking damage, but Matt realizes before he gets on towards that edge, he has to pop a slurp. He has to go ahead and get himself as close to 200 HP and shield as possible before he continues his journey to the center of the circle.
Just barely edging their way on in. I think they might need to move a bit further forward just to actually be into zone, create a bit more space. 2 more boxes should suffice.
$518 halfway through this next game. 6th zone. We already know is moving towards the north this time, more so as I do believe it hovers over Lonely Labs. They just got so much distance to cover, but Threats is going to go down.
Yep, falling in the feed again. got rebooted only for him to be taken out once more. We'll see exactly how it happened.
Three different sides. Pressure literally from three different sides. And the only side that wasn't getting tagged up was in the zone. Literally ran out of options on what to do.
Ran out of options, ran out of time. It's time for the rest of the lobby to move towards this Lonely Labs island almost, right? It's sectioned off by a bit of water that most of the lobby will have to cross over.
Not sure if I've seen an endgame over towards Lonely Labs. At least not in quite a while, because you gotta imagine. We talked about the water. There's a huge dip, a huge trench all around that a lot of players can hide, especially players that might be solos, trying to scavenge for as many of the placement points as possible, because as it stands, 0 placement points have been awarded up until this point into the top 31. It's not until we get into our top 25 duos as placement points begin to kind of set in, one after the next.
Blake's not able to connect with any of those players that were moving in. Was in the right spot to do so, but could not quite connect. I know he's been putting in effort into improving his third game, and now things just aren't quite clicking. No pun intended, of course.
He realizes the situation he's in, though, and you can see him, he's just looking all around, not afraid to peek, to try to take some shots. Down on Surge, has less than a minute to try to pick up any damage that he can. Storm Surge is now active, and that's why you see him and Soup beginning to come online, and it really takes seconds with their backs up against the wall. Try to take down a team, 128 above the damage threshold for now, but they're not stopping, they're not slowing down, but Soup just gets a little too ahead of himself. He was able to get a knock and quickly return to Clix's box.
Soup's been fragging out today, getting the big elims when necessary, getting the big shots when needed. It might not be done.
Nope. They know somebody is nearby. They don't know exactly where, but they're finally going to be able to take down Trolling. Putting themselves well above the threshold for now, about 300, which is a huge difference. Once down almost 100 below, really making things happen here late into this game as Salt takes a shot before flying through the sky, trying to cover the distance, but still 77 below the damage threshold as he quickly moves above. That is a blessing in disguise, but as I say that, he becomes the focus of the lobby as a solo, 34 HP. He needs to figure out a way to use the splashes, but so much shots coming in, he has to defend himself at the same time, and he goes down. Sad sight to see for someone who put in so much effort.
Speaking of effort, Yomzo and Rise tried to get into this box, and Yomzo was forced to win it out alone. Ritual punished Rise, but fortunately not too much. D-Roller and Jackson are strolling into that box zone, so I don't think Rise will be revived. I think Yomzo is just gonna have to get out of the way, build up, move out. Yeah, he will. The revive can't come through just yet, but no, dropping beneath the builds. Jackson and D-Roller left them alone. And that just creates a space for Rise to finally be picked up into this game again.
That was important, because they're barely on the cusp of top 25. Placement points are barely beginning to set in for a team that is well within reach of the possibility of taking first place. That is a must, as ZZ is just trying to push in, 5 below the damage threshold when it comes to Storm Surge, but whether you're 5 below or just simply 1, the Storm is going to do damage regardless. Using the last of his smash, leaving him no choice but to continue to try to move forward. But 2 back-to-back shots puts him 200 above the damage threshold. You add in the fact that he just picked up a huge elimination. That siphon, that refresh, even the chug splashes added on top could bring him towards the end game.
That shield bubble for extra protection is nice. The protection's all good and well. You need some builds, you need a refresh, and that shot is definitely a start at getting there. Yomzo takes the wall first time. Who would have thought he'd be able to do that on his ping nowadays? Either way, they weren't holding a wall, but they were holding a stair. And so they were able to block Yomzo from being able to make his way on in. But now the ODM gear, he's going fully in. He knows he needs these limbs. but nothing quite is working. The desperation kicking in. They just need something. If they can get in front of somebody's face, I'm sure they're gonna hit the shots needed, but they just have to get that opportunity, and the windows are just not open right now.
Yeah, perseverance, though, is gonna be the name of the game for Iamzo and Rise. Even using that last build to get the piece control is polarized and Pen. They have more than just piece control. They have full control over the game up until this point. Night Zone, things are gonna begin to move. With one elimination so far, my only question is how many heals does NPen actually have?
And the Iamzo and Rise, they went down. Let's take a look at it. Heals. WTJ. He dropped down, and Matbra pinching in from the backside. And so that duo, who we know needed a big refresh to stay in this game, couldn't quite do it.
Soup, though, still continuing their own journey. Ultimate low ground, Trashy and Pump. We saw them become victorious right out of the gates, off spawn, and seeing how it's led them so far as Clicks and Soup, 46 above the damage threshold. Game time already being used. Pizza in his back pocket when push comes to shove. Same could be said about Acorn and Cold here, but they have 4 extra splashes added to their total, so they're gonna have a little bit more room to work with as they quickly connect Blade to the front side of zone, sacrificing just a little bit of HP to build himself some more safety on the other side.
Rokin and Vert looking for a potential drop down. And they see that play on this layer. That's Mars who's running away.
Wow, everything just came crashing down for that short moment. Polarized and NPen, though, with those kinetic blades, they're going to be able to catch themselves and continue to maintain their position on that high ground. NPen, though, he doesn't have any heals. Unless he passed them on over when we didn't really see, it's going to be hard for them to win a heal off if it does come down to it, but no game has really came down that far. ZZ still a solo, no heals, but plenty of builds with that kinetic blade. He's going to easily make it from point A to point B. He just has to make sure to not get tagged out of the sky.
Cold and Acorn moving through. Clicks. Let's have a pizza to pop, and maybe should look to pop it with his HP. He is one half-decent shotgun shot away from being taken out, and yeah, we'll just pop it to get everything he needs. Trashy and Pump. They're still in this game, and they still do have heal of potential. If they have that augment waiting for them, if they have access to a pizza, they'll have enough to heal off. The heal-offs haven't lasted that long, and so with what they have, certainly will be more than enough. NPen polarized. Way above and easily choppable, but nobody's looking up at it. Nobody's even interested. What Cold and Acorn are interested in is all these players here on their layer that they can take out. ZZ, 12 HP and a dream.
Like every time we jump on board, he just has less and less HP and shield. Trying to drop down low. Trashy and Pump under siege. So many players all around, just one layer below. Jeff and Rapid on the other side. They quickly try to get on out, but they're getting distracted for now. You lose sight of that focus. It could be your demise as Soup lost sight. He goes down, all left up to Clicks, but he's one of the best solo players we got in the game. And he catches Zuki slipping. Gonna say fast for a moment, but he's gone long ago.
Zuki didn't see it coming. Clicks was waiting there, and he punishes, but can he get back into the zone? By the skin of his teeth, just a couple ticks of HP away from being taken out. Acorn has to drop his pizza now and even look to just play it, and another big shot from Clicks. But sadly not enough to stay in the game. Who knows what could have been? Trashy and Pump still alive as a duo. And these chug splashes will keep them ticking around here in the back side of the zone for a bit longer. Acorn continuing to heal off, and Polarized now being sent down to disrupt the troops. NPen does have the slurps, but not really any chug splashes. If he has pizzas, maybe that could work out for him. Acorn now avoiding as many ticks as possible because his heal of potential has run out, and his time in the game has also polarized. Needs to connect, but won't. Players falling at the wayside, and it's Emerald Road King who's alive in this one.
Gets it. Gets the siphon as well. Last of the splash is going to be used out of nowhere, though. NPen from the high ground tags him up when he least expects it. Like a thief in the night, steals away that victory royale straight from his hands.
Emerald King, before he had time to look for heals, search for something to maybe keep himself in the game. NPen said, nah, I see you from way above. and just dealt with him. Look at that. That's everybody's dream. Falling from the skies, falling from the heavens, and connecting with a magical shot. And N-Pen and Polarized win the game as a result of it.
Okay, that was nice. That was nice. That was a great finish from the high ground. He immediately just dunked on him.
Literally.
Let me tell you, if he's not an athlete, that's going to give him some inspiration.
That was really nicely done. A shot that I think many players would have wished they could have lined up for themselves. But let's see where that leaves them in the standings. Of course, a win here is huge in these games. So much volatility. So many of our top teams were falling there. So we'll send it back to Z to break it all down.
Thank you guys so much. N-Pen, Polarized, huge victory royale, and easily the most stylish we've seen so far. I think, especially calling out N-Pen, he is so hungry right now. He wants to make it to global championships, and this is the level we could very well continue to see him be.
I think the name of the day so far for N-Pen and Polarized would be that, me and SVG kind of talked about it. They were sitting in the storm for so many of these games. We were worried about storm sickness. Are they going to be able to win some of these games? With that being a factor, well, here it is. They get that victory royale. So that time spent in the storm, not affecting them at all.
Not a problem at all. When you're on high ground like that, when you're on the front side of that first moving zone, it is not a problem. You can just stay up there, deal damage down below, and that's exactly what we saw N-Pen and Polarized do so well. What I really liked about this as well is Polarized went down, did as much damage as he could, and N-Pen didn't actually have a Reality Orb to save. That pizza Reality Orb didn't actually have it, so he had to make that play at the end, and what a play it was.
Absolutely. And I do want to just highlight Mini Miner. Welcome to the broadcast.
Yes, hello.
I was so excited. I forgot to introduce you.
That's all right.
So here we are. We got a huge celebration coming out of N-Pen there. That's the kind of momentum we want to continue to see these duos pull out. I do have a question. I just feel like we keep seeing these like almost max height builds. Why will no one just look up? Please, someone look up.
Well, it's all about like time invested, right? If you're looking up to kind of break some of those builds, and a lot of them are built out of metal, so it's going to take quite a few shots to actually break them out. And at that point, it's like, well, why don't I just make my own rotation? Because shooting that duo out all the way up there, they're just going to kinetic blade. They're not going to go down the fall damage or anything like that. So sometimes it's just time wasted.
Yeah, you have to focus on your own game. If you're not focusing on your own game, it's not going to go too well. And if you look up a high, it's not really going to benefit you too much because, as you mentioned, they're just going to kinetic blade.
Yeah, that's true. Let's take a look at our standings. Right now, Acorn Cold still holding it down. They're at the top spot. I mean, my gosh, they lead with 245 points so far. They, another two, I think, are also hungry, man. They looking real good right now.
Yeah, they're popping off. They're doing very well. And if I remember rightly, Vivid, at the beginning of the show, you said that Peterbot is undoubtedly the best fragger on the NA
Mechanical player, is what I said.
Mechanical player, that was correct. Okay, I don't want to misquote here.
Thank you.
Cole's decided to come in here and just say, you know what? What are you talking about, mate? What are you talking about, mate? This is me. I am Cold, and I'm here to dominate. And, of course, in this instance, it was actually Acorn that managed to clutch up those final few points. But what a duo these guys are. I'm proving it yet again.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Let's not forget, Jacob's mentioned it multiple times on the day. Our Major 1 champions looking to defend their title. If Week 1 performance so far has anything to say about it, I think they're hungry to find another Axe of Champions in their inventory.
I mean, who wouldn't be, right? Once you've had it once, you're like, I can't drop that. I never want to lose that again. I want to throw a couple more names. So obviously, N-Pen and Polarized jump all the way up, right? Suddenly, they find themselves in that top 2. But Clicks, Soup, right behind them. We actually saw Clicks in that last game just pull out some very clutch moves to try and continue like fight for this number 1 spot.
You know, it's the duo dynamic, right? The reason Clicks is playing with Soup is because he is such a good IGL. For the past few seasons, and let me tell you something, Clicks has deserved a lot of respect for his transition to an IGL. He improved so much, but now he's returning to that fragger role where he can just kind of focus. He has Soup in the back of his ear being like, hey, listen, this is the play we need to make. Clicks can focus on those mechanical plays. I think we saw a very good example of that this game.
Yeah, he's in his comfort zone now, Clicks. Yep. He's feeling good. He's feeling a bit fraggy again. And as we mentioned, we talked about, of course, Peterbot, Acorn, of course, Cold as well, being some of the top fraggers on the region. But Clicks, he hasn't been in that conversation for a while because he's been in that IGL role. Now, let's chuck him back in that conversation. He's a fantastic solo player and a fantastic fragger at that.
Of course, and I mean, there's a lot of big names here on this top 10 to contest with, right? You're looking at Eom's own rise, now slowly starting to dip down. Peterbot, Quanti as well, moving down 5 placements, while other duos like 8th place, Trashy and Pump saying, hold on, we still got games. We ain't done.
Yeah, it's great to see Trashy and Pump in those end games. I mean, I want to see some more Pump pop-offs, right? But unfortunately for Peterbot and Quanti, I want to talk about that real quick. Why we haven't been seeing them actually gain any points over the past couple of games. Some off-spawn struggles for that duo, which is very, very surprising on the south side of Slappy.
Yeah, that's where Slappy can get a little bit difficult because, of course, more often than not, you are 50-50 for those floor loot spawns because, of course, there is that north side team as well that could rotate in on you. So you have to finish those fights quickly. And unfortunately, it doesn't always work out. And when it doesn't, of course, we see them falling down the leaderboard.
It is a little bit of a bummer, but I have a question for you guys. So EU yesterday, primarily heal off. Here in NA, has been kind of maybe like 50-50, maybe a little more in the heal off department, but why is it so different here? It feels like more of these duos are just saying, I don't want to do that. Like, I want to make sure that I'm not going to give you that opportunity to try and go for the heal off.
I think a lot of it is actually, when we look at some of these zones throughout the mid game, there are so many NA teams just like way out in the storm. So I think in the back of a lot of these NA minds are like, oh, well, we can't play for heal off, so we have to go for eliminations because we've already taken so much storm damage.
And we see that with the teams using those reality organs early, right? We see so many pieces being shut down way earlier than we saw on EU yesterday. So they're expending all of those heals earlier on than what we've seen before. So they don't have that pizza for endgame. They don't have those extra 3 chug splashes that you get from that reality augment. So it's almost like, let's just play with what we have because we've already used half of our heals already. The games aren't going that long. And of course, as we're seeing, it's making some great action.
Not to mention, like, they're using those heals, like you mentioned, but I feel like I've seen every NA team, on average, have a lot less materials than I saw EU teams have going into the end game.
The breakdown is on point as always. Only 2 games left here in NA. And remember, everyone's fighting for those series point leaderboard points. So we're just trying to place as high up on the leaderboard as we can, at least to start week number 1. Any change-ups we need to make going into the last 2 games?
I want to see Peterbot and Quanti win off spawn this game.
Yes, I want to see that too. Let's just run with that.
I think I feel like that's the unanimous decision here from all of us. But hey, we have 2 more games to go. How will this conclude? Let's find out together. Find your seats on the bus. This is the FNCS.
After a long start to the day, we are now at the final 2 games. Here in game number 5, my biggest question, very similar to what the analysts were asking, will Peterbot and Quanti, who started off the day so incredibly well, be able to finally win off spawn at North Slappy, or South Slappy, I should say?
I mean, they're just used to that Slappy Shores all together. And everybody's asking, from the analysts to even Levin standing next to me, is will they win it off spawn? Fortnite says, well, let's just show them. Let's give them a bus path. That's going to give this fight right out of the gate. And you can see Seek and Lawrence having a little bit of height this time around. They're going to go ahead and drop multiple chest opportunities. Peterbot and Quanti, though, they're going on the whole other side, the eastern portion of South Slappy, and they're going to land the first couple of shots, but thanks to those slap barrels, it's not going to do too much damage to their HP, but I spoke too soon. Additional angles from Peterbot absolutely annihilates them off spawn.
Peterbot putting in the hard yards. And so much aggression there instantaneously. Closing that fight out before some teams from the map have even landed. On the far side, here towards the southwest. Batman Booga, hold on Batman Booga. These guys have been some of our most aggressive players in the lobby, dealing such high amounts of damage.
Going back. John's the one who's low on the other side. Edward's doing what he can to try to find as much of the loot as possible. And this is where the little bit of farming up that you can do over on this side is going to come in handy, and Batman Booga's be one of the quicker there. 6 builds, but in a fight off spawn like this, that could be the difference between winning and losing. And for Batman Booga and Bacon, 120 points. Trying to keep themselves within reach of taking a top spot and gathering as many of those series points as they possibly can after the day, as Edward doing what he can. His back up against the wall on the defensive end. And this is where both John and Edward towards the low ground, they need to land a good shot and start to fight that way. Otherwise, Batman Booga and Bacon will continue to hold the advantage.
Yeah, and the opportunity to line it up is right there. Batman Booga doesn't see it coming. Returns with a shot of his own. And that is crucial because Bacon is able to go in there and take down John. So that leaves Edward, even with the great angle he found onto Batman Booga, it doesn't really materialize into anything because he's now still left in the 2v1.
Luckily for him, though, there's no shields to go around on the low ground. Only a couple slap juices. This Bacon actually does prove me wrong. He found some chug splashes elsewhere during the rotation to try to back up Batman Booga. They immediately fire off, take him down. That is going to be a full-on wipe, but you see a team coming from the north side. That's Liam, that's Jitter. That's one of the first teams in game number 1 that actually took down Batman Booga.
Yeah, and they want to get another piece of that action.
Making sure they have 200 shield and HP for this one. Jitter taking those extra couple of seconds, and this is where it's rough, because when it comes to the resources and the mats, got to imagine Liam and Jitter have a little bit of advantage. They continue to try to push those players down farther and farther towards the low ground, giving them less room to work with. Liam has to be careful. He's going to drop down and fall him.
Stop pickaxing away at these walls. Replacing them as well for good measure, and that's why it's good he replaced it. So he can block them off from getting out, but that would have been bad if he hadn't have. It would have been right in his face.
Scary for a moment. You see they pushed out, quickly turned back. Liam with the piece control and the edit, but he bites off more than he could chew. He goes down to Batman, Booga, and Bacon as they continue their aggressive run throughout this final. But luckily, the ODM gear is going to be used. I believe that was Jitter. Is able to kind of get out for now.
These guys are the king of the Southwest. Nobody in this area can really mess with them.
No, not at all. Not at all. What makes you wonder, they're still leading in eliminations. Did they go down too early? Boyo did. He gets knocked. That's Cardi who picks him up. Booga and Threats. They got at least one elimination so far in this early game. So even though the threat of Storm Surge is always going to be looming in the back of their mind, they at least have some flexibility early on.
Yeah, well, they're not done.
No.
Widow's here, and Widow will quickly be rest on 2, and that's why we say Threats is such a good aimer. Shots line up there, and to be fair, Widow was going in a straight line, which made the shots easier for him. Still connecting.
Crazy to see that it seemingly feels like Death and Tahi are just consistently able to push both Shatter and Paper away from Shattered Slabs. They at least got one elimination this time around. So a little comfortability and flexibility when it comes to the Storm Surge threshold. As Cooper just has 14 HP, he needs to be careful. Then pop that med kit. That's Quanti and Peterbot on the other side of Slappy Shores, but they're so far south, basically where they dropped on the POI. They're not going to be able to cover the distance to take down Cooper. Not quick enough, at least, as Aviv and Skittles just causing some chaos over here towards Brutal Bastion. They're usually one of two teams, the other one being Cease and Tragic, that seemingly always walks away with the vault loot. Ooh. Back-to-back shots.
Really nice back-to-back shots. He's going to have to hit even harder now as well with his teammate down, and doesn't seem like it's going to be a problem. Oh dear, players in the way. He's able to get out now.
He somehow got the piece control throughout all that, but it goes over right as I say it. Peeks through the window, a great defensive shot on the side of Aviv to try to keep himself in a better position in this fight. Still has 3 bigs and 2 splashes, so shield and HP is not going to be a worry. Boxes him up like a fish, but a great cone on the defensive end to try to keep himself alive. But a game of cat and mouse is going to continue as Aviv knows he still has the health lead. Doesn't want to give him the time to go ahead and heal up. That's why he's continuously attacking with the ODM. Did he get the res up on Ledesma? He did, and that's just another siphon and even more mats going on over to Aviv to continue this fight. Got to give him credit for going for the revive in such a chaotic moment, though. But Aviv just not giving up, just tearing through those builds with the melee attack on the ODM gear. And this is one of those fights to where the winner of this one gets all that vault loot, so it's more than just a regular fight.
We're going to build Teese's campfire. There's a bunch of campfires all around this bastion area. Aviv going to use the reboot van. That's here as well. Will Dorito let him get him off though? Just taking some shots to try and stop the reboot from happening. The Vive will be right back on it. He does not care about the spray. Will he stick it? Not gonna get a chance to. Dorito starts knocking on the door and he has to answer.
Yeah, Dorito doesn't have any mobility, so he can't necessarily disengage. The timing is just not there. Yeah, he might be able to have an opportunity at it. But as soon as that reboot comes through, he's the one that has the card, so Vive and Skittles are going to chase him down. So he wants to fight this while it's still a 1v1 and not put himself in a bad spot. He has more than enough mats to keep this continued fight going as a Vive once again backtracks to that reboot. He's just trying to bait Dorito into fighting him. And he's continuously circling around. He's trying to keep himself in the best possible spot, the most comfortable spot he could be in, and he's just waiting for Ledesma to make the bad decision and drop down low. Or maybe get him to waste all his ammo so he can't do that anymore. 400 medium bullets, that's gonna be quite a while.
Yeah, we got a while.
Uh-oh. Maybe not. Maybe just a little bit, because that third party coming in, slowly but surely closing the distance. Brutal Bastion. All this noise being made is just basically almost signaling to this team, saying, hey, we're over here. We're wasting some time. We're fighting, possibly not in the best position as they continuously close the distance, and they're keeping the high ground. Look at the trajectory. Look at the route that they're taking.
Are they still going for the reboot periodically?
Is he going to give up yet?
Will you just let me have it? Please just let me have it, sir.
See? He's baiting him. He's waiting for Dorito to drop down low. Aviv is playing into his own hand, not getting greedy, but that third party is crouching. They minimized a lot of their audio to get in this spot. That's Hound, that's Aiden. And before you know it, this dream could turn into a nightmare.
Whose nightmare will it be? Maybe everybody's nightmare outside of Hound and Aiden, because as they roll on through,